ride or die. I keep boys by my side. CJ Ike, now I gotta roll with ice. Cold, these brothers my guys. Know that they fly, know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side. CJ Ike, now I gotta roll with ice. Ride or die, 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 ride or die. Cold, these brothers my guys. Know that they fly, know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side. CJ Ike, now I gotta ride or die.
Is brought to you by Square One. I am Rook, and I'm joined by Naimira and Rai, the founder of Resolve. And I mean, I think we should get straight on into it. How confident are Resolve coming on into this matchup against Barrage Academy here in round one?
First of all, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invite. Yeah, coming into this, we were both teams involved in a relegation series, and we've had our roster for a while now. We're practicing, and I think the team's coming in quite confident. I believe we should take the win here. I'm not going to give a prediction because I think anything can really happen, but we're confident that we can go through to the next round.
So the big question for me is, how do you feel about that loss to Singularity as well? Because that one was kind of hard to take.
Yeah, Singularity are a very good team. They got good coaching as well. I think going into it, we expected to do better than we actually did. But as I mentioned, different variables on the day can happen, and we gotta just move on from it and take what we can, learn from our mistakes, and try and do better next time. I definitely think we went in there with a bit of confidence, expected to give a good game, and I think we did decently well. But I think we could have done far better as well.
So kind of looking to redeem yourself in this series here. And now the question for me is, I'm not going to ask this to you because I think you've got lots of different reasons, and maybe not all of them you can give us. What kind of Naimira things are we expecting from Resolve to really show that they are a strong team here in this series?
Yes, I am completely unaffiliated. So, is that on Resolve's side or Barrage's
Resolve.
side? I just wanted on Resolve side. I think that they have some really strong lanes to play around. I think that particularly top lane, Artorias had some really good games, and I think even in their loss to Singularity, that was where the win could have come through in that series. And I also think that the bot lane, the TV2, looking relatively favorable in terms of their stats coming out of the first qualifier too. So across the board, both sides of the map, because we often talk about teams playing to top side, playing to bot side. Well, Resolve have options in both those areas.
Yeah, they absolutely do. Can play around multiple different parts of the map. And the question is, where do you really want to put those kind of blind picks? Because someone's got to do it. That's a big question for me, Rai.
Well, I think ultimately it's going to be down to the coach. I think he's a really good drafter. I think he showed that in the game so far. We have quite a versatile group of players. They learn champions quickly. They're quite good at playing a variety of different style of champions. Ultimately, I think we have players who can play in losing matchups and still come out with a decent result. So it's going to be down to the coach ultimately to get us the best that we can out of draft. Yeah.
I think it's an important thing too. Just, particularly because like when you do have such a large amount of stuff to work with, the coach has so much to work with themselves because each of these players, I mean, like even like Dragdart in the bot lane, playing stuff like Kai'Sa and Caitlyn, not always the first pickable bot laners, but having that very diametrically opposed style in the bot lane very much helps too.
Yeah, being able to play around a bunch of different stuff. And as you said, that bot lane, very strong as well. You said 2v2, so they're potentially looking to get aggressive here. And there's a lot of interesting picks as well in the meta, isn't there, Naimira? Because we've got some really powerful picks in pretty much every role.
Exactly. You'll see a lot of farming junglers. There are two on this list in the Graves and the Lilia. We can see on the Graves there, I think it's something like 12 and 7 in terms of the games, so it's 12 1 7 losses, but has an 89% presence, which is just absurd, heading up towards, I don't know, like Season 4 Cassidy right at that point. And then also this Lucian's in there too. I think, particularly in this series, that's going to be a pick to watch because Resolver have been a team which have favored on red side. You don't tend to get Lucian on that red side. It tends to go first pick over to whoever's playing on the blue because it's such a versatile pick. And then, of course, we do have a Camille game and a player in this game too. So a lot of these things on screen right now, very relevant to this series.
Yeah, is there anything you want to highlight in particular as well for Resolved, Rai? Do you feel like any of these picks are particularly important for you?
Well, as I mentioned before, I think we've got quite versatile players, and Split is kind of like, I don't know. When I watch him work, he's a genius in the way he formulates all of these drafts. He works really hard on it. He knows what's strong and he knows what isn't. I think Graves and Lucian currently are just really scary in the meta, and Camille has a lot of different synergies as well. For us, it's going to be about who we feel confident, strong siding on, and how we feel about the jungle matchups as well. There's a lot of strong jungle champions which have appeared in the meta. It's been kind of Nidalee Graves for a while, and then Nidalee Nurse came in as well, and now we've got the likes of Lilia, Hecarim, and even other champions coming through. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how the draft, I think, comes out today. But yeah, definitely some scary champions there.
Yeah, and with all these different kind of champs that are all around, I want to also focus on, because we've talked a lot about what Resolve consider to be their strong points where we want to see them play through. Is there kind of a difference in that? Are we seeing matchups of strong into strong, or is it a very big mismatch in terms of those lanes, Naimira? Because Barrage, well, they certainly have players that can show up too.
Absolutely. I think that New Kid on the Block lurks in the mid lane. He's a guy we really need to put the spotlight on. This is the Lucian player we've seen this tournament. We played 3 games of it. The 4th one was on Talon. Now, that's a very interesting champion. It's one of his solo queue mains alongside Echo too. I think that actually the mid lane for Barrage Academy can be a point where they definitely want to get a draft advantage, try and maybe get an assassin in this Talon or the Echo, as we just mentioned, into something like a control mage. Of course, Pillar played stuff like Orianna. Galio also relatively susceptible to these picks too. Maybe that's what they're angling for, but also it's going to be in that jungle role too, because if you're going to get priority in the mid lane and have a like-for-like farming jungler matchup, that priority in mid lane then starts tilting that matchup too. The question is, in their slightly weaker roles maybe in this series in top lane and maybe that bot lane 2v2 as well, can they keep it stable enough for this mid lane jungle 2v2 to work out in their favor?
And here's the really interesting thing, because I got a lot of information kind of looking it up. Flipper, absolutely amazing jungle. Plays some interesting picks as well, kind of coming back to that. I'll give you a point of information that he plays that Nunu. It's definitely something which we could see banned, and also comes out of the left field. Can do a little bit of farming, but mostly trying to keep up in terms of the early game and set up those ganks, set up those repeat ganks. Do you think like that's going to be key to set up lurks for success in this mid lane?
So I think that particularly with Nunu, his biggest point of power in the game is taking scuttle crabs, because that means that his biggest snowball ever goes really, really quickly, and you can gank very, very effectively. I think that a lot of it does stem from what's happening very early in the TVT. If you got something like an Ash Bard, which can just really poke people out, or something which can threaten that kill. I mean, we saw a lot of Leona and Nautilus lanes coming out last week too. I think if you have that, and then piling into Nunu, getting the double scuttle if is able to do that, and then just ganking on cooldown, yeah, that could be very important.
So the one other thing is, I want to know from Riot, how confident are you particular around that bot side? Because we've been talking about a lot of different supports, and that's the thing I really want to focus on. We've been seeing a lot of the Nautilus, a lot of the Iona, a lot of the Bards. Do you feel like that aggressive support wheelhouse is perfect for Resolve?
Yeah, I do. I think in the meta right now, I think it really suits Rickley's playstyle. And I think ultimately, I talk a lot about versatility on this cast already, but I think Dragdar, if anyone has a large champ pool and a lot of versatility in their playstyle, it's going to be Dragdar. And Rickley's really, really good at playing aggressive and supporting that playstyle. I think we saw it in the game against Vanir. I think we saw it in the game against Singularity as well. The start of the lanes, they just come out and start dominating. And I think it really, really suits our playstyle that these champions are in the meta currently.
And kind of talking about the playstyle of different teams, to go back and forth and back, from Resolve and Richley to playing those aggressive supports, we're looking again at Barrage's bot lane. They've got the kind of lacking power in terms of 2v2, because as I agree, absolutely fantastic 2v2 in that bot lane. What kind of support picks are we expecting from Jepaho?
He plays stuff like Bard, plays stuff like Nautilus too. He's kind of done the whole menagerie of stuff. He's played himself the Thrash as well. He's gone through a fair amount of champions. The question is, what do the team need? Are they going to be needing that roaming Bard to try and tilt somewhere else in the map? Because we do know that Akka's, particularly on the top side, plays a lot of tanks. He could end up getting a bit shoved onto the weak side. Maybe it's not where he wants to be, but he might end up that way if he's into like Malphite versus Camille and there's a ganking jungler like a Lilia that can dive top very well. Maybe you do need something that can get up to the top lane, try and stave off some of those ganks. So you just pick the Bard, pick something which is self-sufficient in lane, try and leave the Jhin alone, just get him to that point where he's useful as utility, and then just run off. Or maybe you do need to pick something which is a bit more stronger in the 2v2 fighting, just to make sure that this 2v2 from Resolve doesn't just run them over.
It does. And I think the interesting thing, while we've got these kind of contrasts in terms of in the bot lane, in the top lane, and then also in the mid lane for the other way around, where Barrage really do have that strong point and lurks, the jungle feels like a place to me that is relatively good and close matchup. Now, we talked about the Graves, we talked about the Lilia. If those get banned away, right, what do you think we're going to really see here? Because there's a lot of things you can be playing right now.
I'm not too sure. I think the jungle meta is quite big right now. I think Nidalee's still quite strong, especially if you have a mid laner who can enable things like invades and get prior. Jungles, I think there's a clear meta. I think we know exactly what's strong in the jungle, and I think I'd be very surprised if we saw either of the junglers deviate from that.
Yeah. But then there's also this counter argument. If you're going to play devil's advocate and you say, okay, what about teams that have never really played around farming junglers that well? So a couple of teams at Worlds, even obviously on the same patch, just say, you know what, this game we're just going to go for a volley bet and we're going to gank our strong laners and just see if we can snowball. It does have an inherent risk to it. If you come into mid lane, as we were talking about all of last week in the qualifiers, if you come into the mid game rather with like a 2-level disadvantage, not really having a high damage champion, you lose out on so much for the big team fights around your 3rd, 4th dragons, and that's where the game is often decided.
Absolutely is, and that's why I'm excited as well to see aggressive picks like the Nidalee continue to be so darn good here. And I think if you're asking me for one pick to really watch, it should be that. I would be very surprised to see Resolve not ban away that Lilia. They banned it away a decent few times, and to get a hold of this Graves is going to be so darn difficult. It's been fantastic in the whole patch long. It's not a surprise to see it at that point. 63% win rate, highest there. Absolutely fantastic, and over so many games as well. That's the crazy thing. So I really would like to see that get banned away pretty much every game. I'd be very surprised to see it go into anyone's hands. And the question for me is, again, what picks are we watching if that does? What's going to go through?
So an interesting thing for me is that I believe that Barrage, they didn't ban away Graves also Barrage Academy, of course. Barrage, the main roster did very well last week. Barrage Academy went out, unfortunately, so that's why they're back here. So they picked the Lucian pretty much every time it was available, and they passed up the Graves and didn't ban it. So often they had the Lucian for the Graves trade, and I know that Ryan was talking about how both these champions being scary. Definitely agree on that. The question is, because we know that Pillar didn't play the Lucian last week. Of course, that was when they were on red side so much. He might be that Lucian player. I won't force you to answer that question. But if it's the kind of case where you leave the Lucian open, try and get it into like blue 2-3, in fact, is that going to change up the draft again, knowing that maybe you could snap up one of these priority junglers in that first pick slot for Barrage if they're going to go towards blue side, which I think they've chosen for game 1.
And I really dislike to talk about hypotheticals, but with the fact that they're leaving that kind of Graves open, does this mean that teams don't really feel like their jungler can play it? To specify, that Flipper can't necessarily play it, because he has been known historically to play tanks, and there were a lot of questions coming into last week. What is he going to play? How is he going to really be that main focal point of the team? And the Lilia came out, looked great. Can he play the Graves? Because I think that's a big question for me, because Lilia is obviously a playmaker. You hit the abilities, you drop that ultimate, and everybody goes to sleep, and then you make the team fight. Graves doesn't really do that in the same way.
No, I know that a lot of so Flipper's champions which he played are Lilia, Nunu, and Nidalee last week. They're all AP, so that means that Graves' True Grit doesn't give him any defenses against the largely magic damage coming out of those champions. Also, they're just really good at zone controlling in that's kind of like this mid-range, right? If you get the sleep down, things get very difficult for Graves, because obviously he has to dash into do a lot of burst. If he's immediately zoned out of a team fight, he is under a lot of threat. So I think that maybe they think that Flipper's champion pool right now does quite well into Graves, but I mean, they did end up getting a bit jungle diffed in. Well, they got a bit team diffed in their series they did lose versus Dusty.
Yeah, and that's kind of to be expected. Dusty had a fantastic showing there. So, I mean, honestly, some great stuff on the whole, but I think both teams have a lot to prove here. We talking about Resolve coming in as kind of respecting the fact that they are that bottom seed. And I wanted to quickly, before we do some quick speedy predictions, how do you feel about that bottom seed, right?
I think it's fair. I think, we are the team that just promoted into the UKLC. And when you look at the leagues in the Telia series and compare them to the UKLC, there's an argument to be made that the UKLC is one of the weaker ones when it comes to strength of depth of players, as well as the strength of the teams that are in those leagues. We are the new kids on the block. We are the team that has to prove itself. And that's what we're here to do. I think it's really good that we've got this opportunity to prove ourselves against teams who are more established, who have more experience playing, and who have been seen play more. I think it's just going to be good for us to play against some of the bigger teams and show everyone what we're capable of.
And so you're looking for that experience. And I mean, we've got some experienced casters on the desk. We've got Rail and Trajant coming up in just a second. And my question for them is, who do you think is going to take the series and why?
Good evening, everybody, and a huge thank you to Rook, Nymera, and Resolve Rai for teeing up this series. As you may have heard, my name is CJ Trajan McDonald, and joining me tonight and completing this beautifully waistcoated casting desk is Marcus Rail Sampson.
We had to come out in style. We had to do something different.
We had
seen
to
the
do it for him.
waistcoat last week, so I was like, we got to jump in on it. And
Absolutely.
so what a banger of a game we got coming up. We got Barrage Academy versus Resolve, and this could be a game where any team could take it. The favorites right now, as it stands, for the win here is Resolve. So it's all to play for, and definitely anything can happen in this game.
Yeah, we are getting straight into the bans quick sharp for you guys. They're coming out thick and fast. We've got Kale, Talon, and Ezreal taken off the board straight away. The Talon one really does stand out as it's all over lurksisop.gg. He did pull it out last week as well.
I think the one that stands out even more is the Kale. That's a big surprise because she still takes a while to come online, and they've just said, nah, we don't want to deal with it at all. Just get rid of it.
Just get it out of our faces. The Nunu taken away from Flipper as well. So definitely a bit of pocket pick targeting going on from Resolve here. They don't want Barrage Academy to get any of their comforts getting into game one.
So what this already leaves right now, look how many strong junglers are still open. Nidalee, Graves, Lilia, all on the table. So this jungle matchup is definitely going to be spicy. And there goes the Lilia.
Yeah, locked in straight away now. The Graves is on deck, and Linsys has been a prodigal Graves player and has kind of been struggling without it, to be honest. They opt to leave it open, of course, as the jungler is still locked in for Flipper, and they go for the Lulu Ashe. Lulu is a little bit less common, you might say, so far.
Well, there's a reason you see me smirking right now. I've avidly been abusing Lulu top lane. Hello, I'm a nasty person.
Ooh.
And this could easily be Lulu top or Lulu mid. She has been expanded out into different roles a bit more on the high levels of play. People have been playing it a lot, especially to abuse top lane picks like tanks. So if Akers does want to go something safe like a tank, Lulu top is so good into it.
Yeah, and we saw Akers opt into the Malphite. I think it was all 4 times last qualifier, right? He really loves to play those tanks, and if Artorias has got that Lulu across on him, that's going to be a rough one for sure. And we see Lurks go to the other champion that he played all of qualifier 1 when Talon was banned. He played 3 more games of Lucian there, and he's pulled it out once again.
So Lucian kind of has a weird run rate right now, only 53.8%. So he's not seeing as much success as you expect from how OP he is currently, but he's still definitely one of the strongest picks on this patch. So it's not really a surprise to see him picked up, but Resolve have obviously shown that they're more than willing to play against this.
Yeah, and they've actually locked in the Kindred for Linsys here. So Graves is open, they don't go for it. It's still very much like a powerful scaling AD threat jungler, but, you know, very much a different place in the game and in these matchups than the Graves. So we'll need to see if Linsys can actually pilot this one to success as we go into the second round of bans. Obviously, top lane could still be available for both. We could see the supports picked as well. You mentioned how flexible that Lulu really is.
Yeah, so more on the Kindred. The Kindred, obviously, Linsys has played ranged junglers a fair bit with obviously the Graves. Kindred plays a bit similar, but also a bit different. Obviously, plays more like an AD carry in a way. Very kite heavy, and actually has seen a lot of play into the Lilia. So they kind of showed that they're ready to play into Lilia by picking this. It's an interesting pick, but it's just going to be how they're going to enable the Kindred. And they do need to get some early game pressure on the board to sort of support it a bit more. Obviously, you do have that Ashe already.
Yeah, and as the bans come through in the second phase, the Shen and the Gangplank have been taken away from that top side, and the Gragas taken away, presumably, from Flipper in the jungle there. I'm interested to see what Resolve go for their top pick here, because Artorias has demonstrated he can play, you know, all of the playstyles he needs to lock in there. This guy's a very versatile player. He's done the Camille, he's done the Ornn, the guy can do anything in between. So they do have a lot of options, and they're on red side. So do you think they're going to leave that counter pick for Artorias on top?
There is potential for it because you don't really need to reveal support, but at the same point, if you hide the support, the Lulu's still more flexible here. It's a shame the Ornn was banned, because I was literally going to say the Ornn would fit perfectly with a comp right now. Gives you that early pressure, gives you that engage in CC, but getting off the table, they don't want to deal with it. Obviously, he's still one of the best picks despite his very low win rate.
Yeah, and they lock in the Scion here. So that is implying that the Lulu is not going to be in that top lane, still could be mid or support, but Pillar, we know, usually tends towards a more kind of high scaling, more effective champion pool, like the Cassiopeias, like the Orianas, but he's not been having the best time so far. Qualifier 1 was a bit of a rough one for him.
Definitely was a rough one. He got bullied around on that Oriana, so he didn't really have such a good time in the mid lane. Didn't really go the optimal build, in my opinion. I preferred the tier build, especially into that matchup, so you can have a bit more survivability. But nonetheless, he's definitely been the target of a lot of teams. And I think, again, he's going to be a target today, for especially mid lane with the Lucian being locked in. So
Yeah, we see that now that Akers sees the Scion up there, maybe he's thinking, all right, we're all clear, boys. Roll the Malphite back out. We're going for 5 in a row. And he locks it. There it is. That is a beautiful engage piece for the side of Barrage Academy. And combined with that Nautilus as well, does give them a lot of options to start those fights.
I'm starting to think, is he just going to be a Malphite one trick these
one-trick,
days?
yeah.
Just
Yeah.
Malphite every game. As soon as he's open, Malphite boys, let's do it again.
Yep.
Well, it is tank v tank, so it's going to be absolutely fine for him. And by the looks of things, it should be the Lulu mid.
We'll wait for the lock-in, but this will be interesting. There it is. That is the lock-in for Rickley on the Brom. So let's see, the Lulu's been swapped into that mid, so we're expecting that. Lulu into Lucian. Tell me about this matchup, Rail.
So I honestly didn't expect this. I expected Pillar to play a safe mid laner. And especially into Lurks, who's been very, very aggressive. You want to play something with heavy survivability. I guess Lulu can do that. I still would have preferred Orianna, but they're obviously showing that they probably practiced this a bit more. Linsa's linking up with Lulu, getting the extra damage, obviously, with the picks being on top of the Kindred, can definitely be very deadly.
Yeah, and we have seen overall, including the last games from Resolve in Qualifier 1, we're seeing a lot of champion diversity coming out of this team. They've got a lot of individual unique picks in each lane, and it looks like they're going to keep that going here. We didn't see a Lulu mid last time. We didn't see a Braum support last time. We didn't see a Kindred jungle last time. So I do love that Resolve, they've clearly got a lot of strings to their bow, whereas Barrage Academy, they're very much identifying what works for them, like the Malphite, like the Lucian, and they're opting into it again and again.
Yeah, and they're trying to draft a more safe bot lane with the Senna Nautilus here, because obviously they've been the ones the most exploitable in terms of Barrage Academy. They've been the ones what have been able to be targeted a bit more. So they're opting towards trying to play safe. They're trying to play the jungle mid 2v2 where they know they're the strongest. That's where they succeed in a lot of their games, through that 2v2. And then just act as standard Malphite. So nothing really out of the ordinary, just a bit more safer bot lane for Barrage this time around.
Yeah, so if Barrage bot lane, they're playing a little bit safer, maybe this is a point that could be exploited for Resolve. And we look up at that top lane as well. We talked about the fact that Akers opts into this Malphite a lot, but he's also had not the best time recently. The Malphite has done some good work for him, but he's also kind of been falling behind in these games and has definitely not been the linchpin of the roster. Very much a utility, I'm an ult machine Malphite, not a I'm diving your enemy backline one-shotting the ready carry kind of Malphite.
So it's good that you lean into this a bit more, because I really like Scion into Malphite. Malphite cannot poke you out. As soon as he throws a Q, you just press W and laugh at him. You clear waves way more faster than him. You take way less mana for any of your abilities. You're able to keep this Malphite constantly shoved in without being pressured. Obviously, that also still depends on the jungler. But a very important thing with Scion, you get that cheese base level 6, you ult to bot lane or mid lane, get a kill, and then you just walk back top. People always forget about the strat, and it always happens. Always a Scion player will just back as early as they can level 6, and then just impact the map before you can.
Yeah, so we'll need to see if Artorias can take control of this top lane. He's been a very strong point for Resolve in the matches where they are kind of the favorite, or at least more evenly matched. In their first round versus Veneer in Qualifier 1, Artorias was very, very successful. He won both sides of the Camille versus Ornn matchup. He was an absolute force there, and now when he went into the Singularity match, he got a lot more kind of hemmed in by Flaxish and wasn't able to flex that skill quite as much. So against Akers, do you think Artorias, you said you like the matchup for him, do you think this is a series where Artorias is going to be able to take over?
Potentially. I think Artorias is definitely one of the stronger top laners in this entire bracket. It's a very bold statement, but I do think he is very good at holding his own. And it's tank v tank, so there's not too much interaction going to happen in the top lane. Obviously, it's kind of an easy choice for the Kindred.
We get a lot of more interaction than we'd expected in the whole lane right now, just at level 1. We see Akers does posture quite aggressively and wins that trade using the empowered auto attacks. Artorias does step back, but that's not going to really affect too much, as the rest of the map is keeping it nice and simple. As we have gotten onto the Rift here, Resolve versus Barrage Academy in this first round of the NLC Fall Open Qualifier 2, here presented by Square One. Just after the way Qualifier 1 went, with all of the amazing matches we saw, the shock results, and all the great casting and production that went on, I'm so pumped up, Rail. I want to get started. I want to get fighting right now.
Yeah, I'm all down for fighting. Also, that sign recall is kind of pog. That's the first time I've actually ever seen that. We've got the
Kind of
grass to be
pog,
grass.
Artorias. Kind of pog, like in the tech he's got here, as the waves are crashing now. Let's see if Lurks can actually get this pressure, because as you said before, Lurks, we need this guy to be strong for Barrage Academy. You know, Flipper and Lurks are their power point here, and he's got a Lulu matchup. He should be able to take this one.
So, something I don't like actually, I would have loved for Linsus to actually opt for the vertical jungle here. I would have loved for them to take the red buff away, forcing Lilia to play topside. Knowing that your bot lane is stronger 2v2, I want to see Linsus play around that a bit more. Obviously, it's still early days, but I would have loved the vertical jungle here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, anything that puts Linsas in a strong position is A-okay from Resolve's point of view. He's really been a standout player for them, a real strong point throughout their UKL season and their UKLC relegation series, where they did qualify 3-0. So I want to see big things out of this guy, you know? I really have high hopes for him.
Oh, wet noodle fight. Here we go.
We do, but these noodles, they're pretty squishy still at this stage of the game, so some big auto attacks being traded back and forth, though Artorias does get the better of it just there, and as you said, this mana disparity is maybe going to start coming into play if Akkus wants to trade hard.
Yeah, indeed. And a bit more of a touch-up on this Lulu, by the way. She is able to clear waves from not being too close to it. Obviously, when you put your picks on a minion, you can put it on an ally minion or an enemy minion, and then just get the Q through 2 minions, and just clear a lot of the wave when you get a bit of AP on top of you. So you'll be able to actually deal with Lucian without getting too close to him. So you can keep out of the danger range and just be pretty safe. So that's something we need to keep an eye on. Can Pillar soak up this pressure?
Yeah, and he is doing a decent job of that so far, as we can see. There's a lot of biscuits on the field right now, but interestingly, Artorias didn't opt for it. So maybe that is going to be a way for Akkus to try and equal out this mana disparity or this trading disparity, is having those biscuits on deck, as he's got one prepped already, having already burned through all of the corrupting potion stacks to just one left on Artorias, which is unsurprising with a lane that is just two meaty boys slapping each other.
So the ping's coming out on the top lane. Both teams are pinging this Scuttle Crab. Both teams want to get pressure for it. Lily is already beelining it over, so it looks like they're sacking this one. They're just trying to get that information.
Yeah, and they do catch Flipper there with that vision seed. I forget the name of it. The vision seed on the Rift. They added them this season, but I mean,
yeah, Scryer's Bloom.
Scryer's Bloom. You got it there. Production are helping me out here. It's first game of the day. We're ramping up, but they do catch up the Lilia, so are going to see her and expect them to be taking that top side. Linsys waiting on the bottom here as well, possibly looking for something, but not found an opening yet.
Not found an opening yet. Bit of a CS lead on the Lucian already. Obviously showing a bit of respect, trying to not get in trading range. Lucian is nearly though, so there is potential there. Look at bot lane.
Found their way in. Richly coming up with Dragdar, pushes forward, does get the flash out of Jeppahau, and they are going to get away from this one relatively unscathed. It was a nice actually trade back from Den Voxner with that Q coming through. Nice health advantage for them in bot now.
Definitely a nice health advantage there, especially with the sustain of Senna in the bot lane. So they definitely actually come out on top with this one.
Pillar now has been dropped very low, and out comes that Swirl Seed with the passive ticking down. Pillar is very much in danger if Loix wants to go for the flash. Does respect it. Pillar walking away as the TP, but that's pushed right out of lane.
Oh, I'm so happy he actually opts towards just leaving there, because Lucian was ready to flash there. And it would have been worth it. It would have been worth it, because Pillar would have lost that entire wave. Even if they TP'd back, they still would have missed most of it by the time they got back. So, very smart option. Just don't want to trade anything there at all.
Yeah, and absolutely, we can see the Lucian getting control of this mid lane. Even if it's not through kills, that CS advantage is extending quicker and quicker. 18 right now in that middle lane when we hit the first backs.
So nothing much different in the gold. Just 400 gold difference, so nothing really across the board yet. Mostly in that mid lane. You can see 48 CS to 33, and this is kind of to be expected.
Yeah, we now are hitting the ultimate zone as well. Mid lane hitting that one, Pillar and Lurks have that one on deck, as Linsa's trying to take away this Cloud Drake on the reset. Looks like they're going to pick that one up without any contesting. Lucian, if they were able to come over here, that would probably be an easy kill for them, but how can they know? And they have no bot lane support, so there it is. The Cloud Drake picked up, nice and easy for the red team.
And definitely one you'd want to prioritize, especially getting them ultimates a bit more shorter. Getting the Lulu ult quicker, getting the Ash arrows quicker. Just ideal for you.
That is what you want. We come back to this top lane now where Akaz has got an experienced lead just for the wave here, crashing into Artorias, but we don't see any big advantages here. So pretty much as we expected, though Artorias has up the slight advantage potentially through that favorable matchup that you were mentioning earlier.
I can't help but laugh every time we see the top lane. It's just like a little cheeky grass trade, and then they're like, all right, let's go back to farming, boys. Like, nothing to happen here.
Absolutely. We come back to the spot lane now, which does still in control of Den Boxley and Jepahal, pushing in through. They've got the XP advantage as well with Flipper on deck. Little hook thrown out by Jepahal onto Rickley there. They get that locked up, and the Bron passive is not procced on the backside. Comes through with another Q from Den Boxley. It's another one trade for them.
Jepahal has definitely shown that he's not scared to be aggressive in this bot lane, especially throughout qualifier. Especially
we've got a dive, a TP from Akaz. He has the ultimate on deck. The double drowsy comes through there right on top of each other. First blood, and the second will come through. Artorias has TP'd and will get the kill on Flipper. Can they clean up this Scion as well? Do they want to? I feel like they want to. Here comes the culling. Pillar is trying to show up to help out. They haven't got the kill just yet. Pillar now on the backside, but there's nothing to do in that 1 versus 2, my friend. A lot of tower shots being taken by Barrage Academy, and Artorias has actually just left the building. He's gone through to that brush, but is now going to get spotted by Denbox. He's going to clear that one up. But can he get another kill on the backside with this passive? Lurks is in the lurch, and now Lincus is back on deck and forcing the flash out of Akaz. Another dash forward to the Dance of Arrows. Can get the slow with the red buff, but it's not enough. Ultimately, that is a 3-for-2 in the favor of Barrage Academy. This game suddenly exploding in the bot lane.
3-for-2, definitely come out on top. Barrage Academy getting that TP in early was really important. Very good move by Barrage Academy, setting up that dive. Knew they had the priority, and how clean was that Lilia sleep? Just setting 2 people up, standing together, and you know Malphite's coming in. You know what he's coming to do.
Yeah, he doesn't even have to time it there. He's got it teed up for him off that Lilia sleep. Now trying to secure the red buff, but Rickley and Lincus don't want to give him that one for free. It is secured by Flipper, so they're going to go away that one through the pressure, but a nice idea from Resolve there, pushing that advantage. Or I say pushing advantage, they're disadvantaged right now. He's not going to hit a replay.
So here's the setup. You see the wave coming in and the rotation, getting lurked around first. The double sleep, teeing it up perfectly for the Malphite. Malphite arrives, and that's pretty much just doomed for them at that point. But getting that trade kill on Artorias there was actually pretty big. He also
got a fight in that top lane. 3 versus 1 actually. 3 Barrage Academy members teaming up to take down Artorias. Is going to just get kited away by that bot lane combo. That early lane swap gets them even more.
Yeah, kind of a standard lane swap. Something you should really be expecting at this point. Get in towards that Rift Herald early, and Flipper is starting to take over now. 3 kills on Flipper. He has a full jungle item right now, so he is definitely at our power point.
Yeah, absolutely not any kind of one-trick pony or pocket pick master. With the Nunu away, takes this this meta pick of the Lily and is absolutely putting in work with it. Does grab that first Rift Herald as well, and this top side of the map is looking incredibly comfortable for Barrage Academy.
Not only the top side of the map, actually, because so far Barrage Academy's bot lane have actually been showing up in this game. They're up on CS and even turned around a gank to be more beneficial for them.
Yeah, they are absolutely to be praised here, doing well in this matchup as they've got that CS leader and they're pressuring another turret as well. Linsas waiting in the wings can support if needed, but I imagine Denboxley and Jepahal are just going to take that plate gold, say thank you very much, and step back.
And there's no TPs on the map right now, so not much action should be happening soon. We do have a dragon not too far away.
Do you expect Lurks to be doing more pretty soon? Because I mean, now that Lucian has got this this Mana Moon on deck and Pillar has just got the Seeker, so it's an anti-Lucian item, but very much Lurks is in the driver's seat, I would say, in this mid lane. And we talked about this mid jungle duo, Flipper and Lurks. This is who we want to see performing, and I do kind of want to see Lurks get stuck in when this dragon comes in.
I think he's just going to focus on getting them kill stacks for now, but also keeping that mid shoved. As long as he can keep that shoved, he can definitely keep the pressure to just move around with Lilia. But right now, Lincus is lurking towards that mid lane. They're looking to try keep pressure back onto Lurks this time around.
Yeah, it does dive forward, but we saw the power of the Seeker's Arm Guard and the shield from Pillar. They're waiting in this brush, but they're going to get spotted out by a lovely W from Lurks' Lucian there. They're going to see that one coming. Now the dragon is about to come on, but the vision in that bot side very much in Resolve's favor. They've got the river control.
And very smart by Lurks there, spotting out the gank.
Ooh, little hook on top lane. Actually, Dragdar caught slipping in the bot lane, rooted up by Denboxne, and that passive comes through with the kill. And the river control completely gone from Resolve now. Barrage Academy, they've got the numbers advantage on the bottom side. Dropping this Herald, they are going to hopefully get this first tower as the rest of Resolve are coming into the area. There goes that first turret. And maybe we'll see them go for that second charge as Akers is in the building as well. Ult on deck. With Dragdar still coming out of base, Barrage, they can just push up. Resolve having to give up space.
4k gold lead right now, getting that first tower, and they're going to get another charge of Shelly here, bringing it even closer. Shouldn't be a lot that Resolve can actually do at this point. They're just going to look to sustain whatever damage they are taking right now.
Rickley tried to pop the eye on the way past, but the auto attack is just too slow coming out of Brom. That, you know, cumbersome fist not able to do the job and does get that second charge. Plus that dragon, as you say, is secured by Barrage Academy. So they've got that ocean, and we've got an Infernal Rift coming up here. So now that it's one apiece, which team is going to need to prioritize these dragons more? Who wants to get stuck in with this more?
It's going to be more towards Barrage Academy's side because they definitely spike a lot faster. And talking of spiking...
They're trying to spike right now. A flash forward from Flipper doesn't get in front of the ultimate from Artorias, though, and he slips away. I like the idea, but the execution just not quite there.
Not there indeed. Getting away with his life, but back to our point. Barrage Academy definitely spike earlier. So this is why you see him taking control of the game a lot sooner. They're definitely in the driver's seat right now, and it could be another 10 minutes at least before we start seeing Resolve actually looking to trade back a bit more consistently here.
Exactly now, so they are going to return on a little reset here. Going to take stock, get some gold, get some items in, as now pretty much every single lane is in the favor of Barrage Academy. It was pretty even, as we talked about before, but that 4k gold lead is spread, as far as I can tell, relatively evenly across the board, besides top lane, really, which is in Artorias here. Actually, more than I expected. How did he get an 800 gold lead?
It's mainly from the CS difference and obviously the 2 kills, but look at that jungle difference right now. 6.1k gold to 4.1k. Flipper is definitely in the driver's seat right now. Linsus needs to pick up some shutdowns or some kills to actually get back into this matchup right now because Lilia is running ahead.
Absolutely, we do see a lot of bodies showing up in this mid lane as well. The Ash Arrow comes through with that Brom up, following up from Rickley. A stun comes through onto Jepahow, nowhere this guy can go. That stopwatch comes through in a TP. Actually, they cover his retreat very well with Flipper. The TP does get cancelled, I believe, from Akers, but it is going to do its work anyway. It does create that zone control, and Jepahow, he survives.
It's probably ideal that Akers got that cancelled. He probably wanted to get that cancelled.
Lose his wave.
Doesn't lose his wave. Actually able to catch up with CS a bit more, and denies them pushing forward, which it looked like a great pick for Resolve, but so far Nautilus is too tanky. It was the right move, but the execution just wasn't there.
Yeah, so if they do try and pull that trigger but don't get anything off it, I imagine we will see them continue to work on this one as we go through. Did they get the flash out of Senna as well? So maybe a priority target coming into a following fight. We are now setting up back to a more slower pace here. Lurks is in that bot lane. We still have this 3-man squad in the mid lane trying to get some control in that topside jungle. Not going to let Denbox to get back to his tower for free maybe, but not too much they can do here.
So we've got 1 TP apiece across the board. Artorias and Lurks both have the TPs available. Both teams are looking to constantly pressure mid tower, but nothing's ever going to come off it. They're just like, let us take the tower, please. And they're like, nah. You know, not today.
Like, we're keeping our gold lead. We don't want to give anything over to you, friends. Like I say, we've got to hit that power spike. We want to get there as fast as possible. And they are straight back to it as these mid towers are still a priority. Dragging up in under 2 minutes now. Linsus and Pillar returning to the mid lane. The hook goes onto Rickley. They're starting that fight with Flipper in the backside. Does get those 2 massive chunks of true damage. That ult from Kindred has to come out on a massive Dawning Shadow from Denbox. They drops them all so low. The triple sleep is enough to secure the first kill. Artorias trying to buy some space, but is now left in the 1 versus 5. Flipper does at least go down, but is traded with Artorias' life. And now Denbox, he gives the space needed. They can heal up the friends, and that's another 1 fight for Barrage.
Yeah, 1 for 2 in that scenario. Flipper just showing up on Lilia again. The last time he played this champion, he kept getting 3 4-man sleeps. And this man is still performing as champion. People are sleeping on Flipper.
And he is sleeping them, I guess. There's a lot of sleep just going back and forth here right now, but Flipper, he's got that Leandris, he's got 2 items completed. You can see the damage that Q does, just absolutely lopping off heads with the true damage.
Yeah, and that should definitely give them priority towards this dragon. Look at the gold lead right now. So it's still nearly a 4k gold lead, 7 kills to 3, but 2 towers to 0. Not a single tower taken for Resolve right now. So we jump into the replay. Here's where it looks like a pick again, but they get the arrow onto the Nautilus, which means absolutely nothing in the scenario. But on the backside, Linces has already been popped. And look at that beautiful 3-man sleep. They're just pretty much set up for their demise at that point. Artorias doing his best to trade, and he gets 1, but that's all he's ever going to get there.
Absolutely, I missed the Aka's ultimate, so we've got another fight as well. Actually, these fights come in thick and fast. Jeppahau forced the flash away, but still drops the Linsas now. This time, it's Resolve getting the opening kill. Can they get more with this? They do have the slows. Linsas jumps forward onto Flipper, but he gets away. Richly diving forward, throws out that Q. Another knockup from Artorias, but kited back from Dimvoxne. Gets the root and those damage through to Artorias. He's a tanky boy, though. He is driving a lot of damage, absorbing a lot of power there. They are knocking him down. The dragon is secured by Resolve, by Linsas, and the sleep comes through, but it's still a 5 versus 4. When Jeppahau comes up, he's not got a TP to rejoin, so the teams, they are just going to break apart.
This is perfect for Resolve. You needed to get something back, and that's exactly it. They get a kill, they get a dragon, and they get out with their lives, because Akaz doesn't have his unstoppable force in this fight. Despite how grouped they are, it looks perfect for him, but he doesn't have the ultimate available.
Do you feel like they could take the 4v5 if he has the ultimate? I think he'll still win it.
Definitely. I definitely think, because how grouped they were together, it's just an easy 3-man, and then at that point, it just provides Flipper that access.
Flipper is getting a bit feisty with that red buff there. Does get pushed out, and Jeppahau walking into Artorias as well takes a huge amount of damage. This Scion is actually very, very strong right now. The strongest piece of Resolve on the Rift right now, 3, 3, and 0 with the Titanic Hydra, and is, as you say, creating a lot of space in these fights, absorbing a lot of power. We just need to see a bit more follow-up from the rest of Resolve when they get those items coming in.
Yeah, so not to underestimate the Titanic Hydra on this Scion, especially with Scion's W passive. He gains HP every time he kills minions, especially large minions. He gains a lot of HP, and people always underestimate this. He gets so tanky with HP. That benefits your Titanic Hydra, that benefits your Bami Cinder, so much HP damage and magic damage going to be coming out from the Scion.
As we see Barrage Academy now walk up to try and secure this top lane tower. There's a lot of mobility from Barrage Academy. They're moving into the enemy jungle on this top side very quickly. Flipper dodging and diving around, trying to apply that pressure as they jump onto the second Rift Herald there. That will be the second for Barrage Academy if they pull it up. And looks like it's not going to be a contest, as all 5 members of Resolve are now on the bottom side here.
They are on the bottom side. Look at the arrow.
There's the ass. The arrow comes through onto Jeppahau. Once again, the target richly following up with that Glacial Fissure. Pillar on the side to finish it off. Linsas is the benefactor of the kill there, and Jeppahau once again gets caught and targeted down. Now they have this 4 versus 5. Once again, Lurks is coming through, but Artorias is here, stepping up in the jungle, creating that space. Once again, Akers does have the ultimate. Could this be a 4v5 they want to take this time? As you said, Lurks is now here. Do they want to go? The stun locked onto Akers. He's actually gone very low. Has to be healed up by Senna, but can he just get burnt down? He's dropping so very low and now has to walk away. Linsas takes a fair chunk of damage on the backside as well. Sleep comes through, Lilting Lullaby, drops that Lamb's Respite just to keep him alive for now. They're boxed on the side, maybe can drop some damage. Artorias with a big knockup. Dragdar following up. So many low health bars in the jungle. The Cully, can it burn through the Scion? It can't. He steps away, and this very tight fight in the bot side jungle. Nobody even dies, and the teams, they walk away limping.
This is neck and neck at this point. Both teams can't get the lead they're trying to pursue. They're both trying to get the pick. The 5th arrow in a row finally hits Jeppahau, and they do actually take him down finally, but other than that, nothing else really happens. Artorias gets a good re-engage, but it's not enough and nearly dies for it.
I have to say, it doesn't look like a game where the teams are 5k gold apart. Resolve are being the ones now stepping up, taking the aggressive plays. It is just onto Jeppahau. They're kind of just bullying, circling him a bit, but they're getting it done, and they're not losing people on the backside. So if they can keep playing like this, it's going to keep them in this game, going to keep them stable until they can scale up even harder.
The key thing to look at right now, look at Senna's items compared to Ashe. Ashe has finished 1 items compared to Senna's 2, and she just picked up a Cloak of Agility. So Senna is in the driving seat right now. She's probably not too far away from her Mana Moon, and look at that gold difference already. 5.8k gold to 7.5 on Dimvoxne. So they're definitely in the driver's seat. Can they set up the Senna for success?
Yeah, and it is still just the lonely Artorias holding on to his gold lead over Akers as the rest of Resolve are in the deficit. Once again, we're back to the NA Ram hanging around this mid lane, with the tanks in the bot side, Linsas coming in to support this mid lane as well. Resolve have tended to have more people around here, with Lurks opting to be in that side lane. He's got a 60 CS advantage on Pillar now, so you can see the difference in these champions' roles. Lurks is farming up, getting that side lane pressure, and Pillar very much being the support. Now that he's gotten out of lane, as Ripley tries to come forward, Yepahau eats another crystalline arrow, and Linsas here to follow up with a stun through to the TP from Artorias is coming through as well. Does get away from Akers. In comes the ultimate. Artorias charging into that mid lane. Linsas dropped very low. Has to look the Lambs fight as well. Flipper walking away on the side. Artorias zoning off 4 members of Barrage Academy there, as Akers now meets Dragdar in the mid lane. Artorias finally starts to get chunked down. He has to try and get back to safety. Slowed by Akers. Flippers can come in if he wants to, but Pillar is still full health. Linsas is healthy enough. They can break apart once again, and it's another fight that is just Yepahau for none. As Resolve, they find the Nautilus once again. He's actually back in already as they try to get stuff done. It was actually Dimboxner that went down. I tell a lie. Yepahau once finally escaping with his life this time, but Dragon Control is Resolved's. Flipper not going to walk into that Artorias stun, but looks like he's not going to contest this objective either.
So I can't help but say Resolve are the ones being proactive here. You wouldn't think there's gold apart in this game, like you mentioned earlier. They are the ones making decisions. They're the ones pulling the trigger on these fights. Despite it being on Yepahau, they're still coming out on top because Sion is zoning 4 people and taking 0 damage right now.
Yeah, amazing zone control by Artorias as we have that replay teed up.
So here's the arrow landed straight away on Yepahau. They look to get the counter engaged with the TP. It looks great. It looks like Malphite has the right idea, but it doesn't catch Ashe. And here's the perfect engage on that backside by the Sion, absolutely dismantling Dimboxner. And there's the Titanic Hydra proc, and he's gone.
It's a solo kill, literally. 1 versus 5 solo kill.
It literally is. He got a full charge ultimate, and because of that, he's able to just zone everyone off and doesn't even go down for it. That's the most important part. He gets away after taking Dimboxner down.
Yes, super amazingly amount of effort being put in by Artorias, amount of impact on these fights. As we do see that second Rift-Held drop does get them a little bit of turret gold anyway for Barrage, so they are still keeping on to this gold lead. As we said, Resolve, they're the ones kind of being proactive and winning these fights, we would say, but it's always by these tiny margins. And Barrage, they're still accruing more and more CS difference on Lurks. They're getting these Rift Heralds down to get the towers, so they are still quote-unquote ahead. And one of the big things about that fight is that Yepahau has a Gargoyle Stoneplate now, so you can't just arrow him and expect to get the free kill.
A lot of praise on these supports, by the way, because look at that vision control. Both of them have been clearing wards galore. Every time they've seen a ward, it's gone. Like, they've been controlling the map really well. It's been hard to determine who's going to get the better of the vision control because both teams have been on top of this game. And something funny, which I've seen built, there's a last whisper on Artorias.
Oh boy. Let's go, dude. Let's go. He knows he's the carry of this team. This is the driving force behind Resolve in this game. Artorias, we were praising him before his versatility. He's now playing Last Whisper Scion for us here in Game 1 in our opening match of the NLC Fall Open Qualifiers. Now, once again, we've got people grouped up around mid lane, and Yepahau now goes in onto Richley. He does not have a Gargoyle Stoneplate, and he is going to be taken down.
But what can they capitalize on this? Because right now, that's only a support taken down. Can they look to pressure this Baron? They're pinging onto it, so they're going to look to pressure it. There is TPs available, though.
Yeah, as this game goes on and their gold lead's going to mean less and less, they're trying to get this advantage cleared up now. Resolve, they're not moving just yet towards it. They did have the vision, but they're just kind of sitting there. They're going to be late to the party if they show up. In comes the Hawk Shot to confirm what they already knew. The ultimate from Artorias comes through, Chanting Crystal Arrow as well. Another combo smashes into Lurks. Gets that engage from Artorias and that ultimate from Lulu, but it is too much for him to do on his own. The Baron has at least so far been stopped and is resetting. Flip on the backside with a triple lilting lullaby once again. The Lambs respite to cover the aggressive, but Dragdar, he's trying to get away. Akers chasing him down, and Rickley's going to not be able to save his carry anymore. And Barrage Academy, now they've got a true advantage they can take into this Baron.
Flipper, that was insane. Turn it on the backside, getting that triple sleep into the Zhonya's, so he's not even going to take any return damage. It looked like the good engage from Resolve. They led in with Artorias and Pillar getting the Lulu on top, getting the triple man knockup, but it's not enough. Barrage Academy are just in the driver's seat and turn that fight on its head, and Flipper just, again, such an important sleep on that back line.
Absolutely huge there, controlling the space once again. This has been a game of zone control, and now Barrage Academy have the Baron buff, and they can get these lanes pushed up without having to start these fights. As now we go into this replay.
So we see the charge coming in, also with a crystalline arrow, but it's not the target you want. They hit Lurks, but they're not able to follow up. Lurks had to flash away, and at this point, they're able to just burst him down. No one else could get into the fight, and you see Flipper here. He ain't scared of no man. Lands that 3-man sleep, gets that Zhonya's back in there, and it's just perfect. It's just absolutely perfect by him. His team able to follow him up on the backside, and they pick up 2 kills and the Baron, so 3 for nothing.
Yeah, when we have a team comp that has Lilia and Malphite, normally if you ask me, I would assume the Malphite's the engage, but Flipper is the primary engage, and Akka's following up with the unstoppable forces. Flipper just doing so much in these team fights. We have another 5 versus 5 mid lane developing, as this is an Infernal Soul point for Resolve. They've got the river control. They do have everybody here. They get that knock onto Jeb Howe, a little bit of damage. A counter hook comes through Rickley. The arrow once again onto the Nautilus. Can they finish him off this time? Huge damage from the Dawning Shadow comes through from Devoxley and drops Pillar so very low. Akka's now controlling the front as Artorias is torn apart on the backside. Dragdar and Pillar and Linsas watching in horror as the fight goes awry. Then Voxna steps up, forces out that Lamb's Respite, and Flipper now can just start off this Drake. He's not going to be soul secured by Resolve here, and it's another fight going in the favor of Barrage Academy.
Can we get an update on Voxnay's souls? Because
he's caught Dragdar. He's got Dragdar and Pillar, locked them in that bot lane. The 2 versus 1. This Senna is massive.
6 on 9. What was that again, Reed? What stats? Yeah, 13. That's not what I asked, sorry.
Well, it's lots of stacks. 98.
98 stacks on Senna, so nearly
28 minutes. Jeez Louise, as Akka's get, I guess he's very much, you know, you're not locked in here with me, I am locked in here with you in that mid lane, forces the Resolve pairing out into that top side as 2 turrets fall. Artorias once again trying to stop them, but Lurks is able to do the damage, forces the flash out, and that's going to be an easy inhib secured for the side of Barrage Academy. Now Dragdar's come out of the base, does have the arrow if they want to try and force something. A knock-up lands onto Flipper, but they're not going to follow up. The TP now coming through. Everybody is on deck. Barrage Academy, once again, this 5-man squad forcing into the base with the Baron buff minions. 2 inhibs are going to fall. They've got a wave prepped in top lane. This game is all set up for Barrage Academy to sew it up.
It is indeed, and it just seems like whatever play Resolve has been trying to make at this point, Artorias is just getting bursted down now. They have the damage to deal with him, and there's no actual follow-up damage from Resolve at this point. Ashe is too far behind compared to the Senna. Senna is actually just running his house on top with Lilia and Malphite finding these really great engages.
So Artorias trying to set up a decimating smash, but is not going to find anything. 5 members of Barrage Academy onto this top side now, matched by Resolve. They're pushing them back. Another arrow lands onto Jepahal. This man just cannot get missed by the arrow. He is going to walk away after taking a significant amount of damage, but Barrage Academy know they have control. They don't have to force here. They can just burst down these towers with the waves coming in mid and bot lane. They do manage to get this tower. They're moving on to the inhib now. Resolve maybe trying to find a way to start something, anything that can get them back into this game. Then Voxna steps forward to Dragdar. A huge chunk forces the heal out, and Linsas gets caught up by Jepahal's hook, followed up by the Unstoppable Force. That Lamb's Respite is only going to keep them alive for so much longer. The health bars are just withering away. Flipper gets another sleep onto Artorias, goes golden to stay alive, and now can they finish this game up? It looks like they can. Lurks and then Voxney just doing so much damage on the backside. The waves are crashing in. Barrage Academy, they look like they were maybe struggling in that mid game, but they finally get it done. They use their lead, and they're going to take the first game in this series.
Yeah, and very convincingly, after they got past that mid-game spike where they weren't the ones engaging, they seemed to just like, right guys, what's going wrong? Like, we're not engaging, we're stronger, let's actually start fight us ourselves. And what happened? They started taking them convincingly because they're the ones that actually engage in these fights. Barrage Academy coming out on top, looking a lot stronger than probably people expected, especially bot lane. Then Voxnay is definitely someone to highlight.
Yeah, we were worried about this bot lane. Everybody was thinking that Resolve's bot lane would be the one to take it, but then Voxney absolutely acquitted himself massively in this game one. And I'm going to be honest, I do want the analyst desk kind of to follow up on this one a little bit. Can we get an analysis on the value of that Lord Dominik's for Sion as the game ended? Because, I mean, he bought it, and suddenly they started losing. Coincidence? I don't know, man.
Yeah, Torres tried his best, but it just wasn't enough. Maybe he might come onto a carry this next game because Linsus wasn't able to get too much done in the early game, and he really struggled to actually find many openings despite Artorias buying so many people's attention. It just wasn't enough, and it just got to the point where Senna had stacks on stacks on stacks, and it was just like, what are you going to do? I'm going to nearly one-hit your AD carry.
Yeah, and that he did. We are going to go to a short break now, going back to the analyst desk to break down that first game in what looks to be a very exciting series. Please don't go anywhere, guys.
NLC Fall Open, brought to you by Square One. I am Rook, joined now by Initialize and, of course, Nightmare. And, I mean, we had a great game coming out there. Barrage taking it in pretty fantastic fashion. And, you know, I'm really disappointed. Rye talking up Split, saying, what a drafter. He really knows what he's doing. And then he lets them have both Lilia and the Lucian. What's up with that, Initialize?
It was interesting, the fact that we did see a B1 Lilia and then we got B2, 3 Senna and Lucian coming through. That's a bit risky. Lilia and Lucian we've seen on the stats before the game. We've seen on the stats held throughout the tournament here in Worlds, wherever you happen to go. Lilia and Lucian are pretty damn high priority. Lucian in particular. And it's not like these two players, Flipper and Lurks, have shown that they can't play these picks. They love these picks. They get them and they do some pretty scary stuff on them.
And that was absolutely key, wasn't it? Flipper getting that Lucian. That first tower dive bot went a little bit skew-if, but they still managed to come out on top. What was the kind of impact of that, Nightmare?
So I think we called it pretty cleanly in the pregame. We said if you have priority in mid, it just allows Lily to do more stuff. We also said Lily's pretty good at diving. You have the sleep, have the Malphite going on top of it. Things get really, really messy. You can't flash away from a Malphite all if you're slept. That's exactly what happens in that bot lane play. Lucian gets the first roam too. It's not like Kindred is there particularly early. The play extends a little bit too long for Barrage Academy's liking, so it does end up in a 3-for-2. But the setup from that play was actually pretty easy to see just from what the draft says immediately. They managed to pull it off, but maybe not quite cleanly as they want, but you can see the logic.
I mean, like, it's a 3-for-2, but 2 of those kills go on to the Lilia. She gets first blood. It's a wave and a bit lost under tower for the side of Resolve as well, so the bot lane loses out on that as well. So yes, at least Resolve recoups something from that tower dive, but they still lose plays. They still lost out on the kills. They still lost out on the first blood. They still lost out on the wave. That's still not a great space to be in.
Absolutely isn't, but Resolve, well, they showed exactly their namesake. They managed to make it through to that mid game and actually had some really good fights. Artorias in particular, I think we were all kind of very excited about that play where he slams into that center in the back line.
And that's so important because if you look at the team comps on paper, it's not really like Resolve have a bread and butter flank like you can have with a Vladimir, Kennen, Camille, something like that. And those are the things which can really upset a Senna. Senna, building the Black Cleaver in this game, is very happy to land an auto attack, land a Q, and just use that extra move speed and, of course, the move speed from the passive too. Senna to just walk around so quickly that you can start setting up and start falling back to new battle lines very effectively. Does not work when you've got this huge ass tank just slamming into your AD carry and removing him from the fight. Solo kill from the Sion, turns the fight around. Not enough DPS from the rest of Barrage Academy to turn around the fight in their favor, and it was a really good fight against the head.
Yeah, and that was also after an engage onto Linsas, who just about survives long enough to pull off the Lamb's
Eats
fight
3
and
ults
get
too.
out. Yeah, and that's a huge deal that their jungler survives, enemy AD carry dies. They'd already snuck an Infernal Drake against the run of play. It gets them to Soul Point, and we're beginning to wonder, Kindred starting to get some items. They've got onto the center. They're at Soul Point. Maybe there's a world, even with the slightly awkward damage profile, that they can find a way back into the game. Didn't work out in the end, unfortunately.
No, absolutely didn't. And I was really rooting for him. I thought Resolve could have made that massive comeback. I'm a real sucker for the underdog, and absolutely in that game they were after that start. But we kind of get towards that end, and we're looking at that Baron fight, aren't we? Flipper shows up again. Isn't that right, Initialize? Absolutely fantastic stuff.
It absolutely does. I picked the worst time in the world to go and look for a cup of tea. It was amazing. Like, I go out, it's like, it's cool. Dragon fight's done. It'll be a couple minutes of carb. I come back, everybody's dead. And I come back, what happened? I see the replay, and Flipper lands the most amazing ultimate to get them the Baron and to kind of finally break out of that 3-4K gold advantage stalemate they'd been in for so long. They were looking down that Infernal Soul. It was such a critical play on the back of some fantastic Lilia play. He showed up in the early game to Flipper, and that was a critical mid to late game play to get them the win.
Yeah, enough of that. They took the next dragon fight. They won that one out. They closed out the game in pretty short order. Now, the game started off on a wrong foot, but Resolve showed their mettle. They had a lot they could really work with. Naimira, what do we really want to see from this team going into this next game? We're kind of looking forward now.
Really want to see a top lane carry again. Taurus seems like he's brought his A game. That Sion had a large impact, but there's only so much you can do with the draft these games. I also think that you can't draft that much AD into a Malphite. It seemed like actually that last pick was a sitting opportunity to pick something like an Orianna. So maybe try and think, maybe we can just even out the damage portfolio, like Sam was saying a little bit earlier too. I think that they need to think about who's playing what roles on the team in terms of what they're doing in team fights, what they're doing in the laning phase. And also, you just cannot give that many power picks without contesting them yourself.
Like, and look, there was some good stuff for Resolve there in terms of the draft. Some good combos, like Kindred and Lilia. Kindred and Lulu is a great pair of ultimates to keep people alive. You've got good frontline with the Sion in front of these guys to keep your double AD carries there. But it's kind of when
AD carries did pretty well that game too.
Fantastic. So like you see some of the combos that can work in isolation, but drafting's not done in isolation. And you look at the other side and you see you've got double AD carry there too, good frontline there too, which you're going to struggle to deal with. And then you've also got things like a Lilia there, and you don't have the AP threat to counter. Just need to step back a little bit and stop focusing so hard on the combos you're looking for sometimes, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, that I have to say, and I think we all agree that Flipper really the MVP, and he was set up to do so. Yep. I really want to see a Lilia ban. Take it away, pick it. I don't care. Just do not let Flipper have it because he has looked monstrous in the last series and in this one. So going into this next game, we kind of highlighted those picks, those plays. What players do we need to see step up really? Because Resolve, they had pretty good players across the board, but there were a couple of weaknesses, weren't there, initially?
There were, and I kind of have to call out a little bit here, probably Pillar, actually, who obviously it's Lucian into Lulu. Lucian obviously gets the early advantage, but I think I need to see a pick that gives Pillar more agency to contest in that mid lane, because it meant that Linsas was kind of like, he sat around at that bush looking for a gank early, and Flipper on the other hand got farm up on Lilia, get off the dive in quick order in the bot side, and get kills from it too. I need some more priority to give Linsas more agency. That guy is so good in the jungle. Give him a little bit more to work with. Give him a Camille or something top tier. Give a little bit more agency up there as well for Artorias. If you can get that pressure, if you can get Linsas on a more even playing field, you don't have to wait until that 24-minute mark or whatever, the 21-minute mark to try and look for those last gasp team fights on a Kindred who finally gets to 2-0-2. It's a little bit too late at that point.
Also worth noting that actually, I think, so obviously Rai was sat with us chatting throughout the game, and we all were in a bit of an agreement that you have to build a blade somewhere that last game. I think the itemization was very bursty from the Ashe and the Kindred trying to go for very high AD, but of course that doesn't always work when you're hitting the Malphite primarily. Going for the Essence 3 for an Ashe, I don't mind it, but you need something to cut through the front line and then just start having that front line difference where Sion was tanking up so much time. So there's some decision making on and off the Rift, because we'd already talked about the draft, now this is about the itemization on the Rift, which just needs to be a little bit more heads up little bit more
Yeah.
aware about the game state. Just look a bit into the future and say, okay, in about 10, 15 minutes, how are these team fights going to look? What items do I really want at that point?
And the kind of thing I want to look at in particular is as well, what do we want to continue from Barrage? Because actually, Flipper continuing to show us great form on the Lilia. Question mark still raised is, if we don't have the Lilia, what are you going to play? Because I don't know if they can play that Graves. The thing I want to ask in particular is, do we want to see them continue to play around that mid jungle, or do we want to maybe see them shift something towards our bot side? Because actually, Barrage played really well around that bot side this game.
Voxner was in with a shout of
good.
being MVP that last game. He ended up, 10-1 and 10 on that center. And also it's worth noting that I think that, we thought that'd be a weak point for Barrage. Just didn't matter, right? There was an early gank, blew a flash, sure, whatever, right? It just didn't matter. The
Sure.
center ended up getting such a stable laning phase, getting out to a Muramana early, and that was kind of it. The dive was also very important. I also want to see Akers turning up to the fights. Did that very well. Of course, sure, he went down in CS and whatever, but if you're just getting an ultimate onto 2 people, importantly, that's more than enough, really.
And actually, there's something else I've got to call out a little bit. Like, obviously, we saw from them last week as well some slightly dubious plays in lane, getting caught out a little bit, maybe blowing some summoners a little egregiously. I think is probably a word we'll use. Probably a little bit over aggressive there, but like maybe a little over eager. That's probably a better way of phrasing it. But hit those mid-game fights. This guy's positioning and DPS output is really, really high. And that is great news when potentially you are looking to support your rookie mid laner who is a bit of a firebrand, but can be a little bit volatile in terms of kills a lot, dies a lot. It's one of those things that sometimes you get with the rookie, especially if he is picking up something like Lucian. So, yes, play around that bot if you can get that mid-jungle to come roam down and get down there. But don't be afraid to leave these guys alone as long as they can survive into the mid-game, because they've shown they can do it and they've shown they can turn up in the fights when it matters.
Absolutely can. And as we're talking about them, how they got ahead, how we really put them in that position, again, eyes turn to Flipper, who I want to, again, reiterate was absolutely fantastic in that game. And I would not be surprised to see these bans come against him. Now, if we can bring up the kind of popular picks in terms of jungle, we can also see that Nidalee coming on through. Do you think we'll be seeing things like the Nidalee and maybe not see that Nunu band anymore?
It's an interesting one because
if you're going bot focus, no.
Yeah, because Nidalee, I know myself and Nymera have spent a fair amount of time talking with some of the VCS English guys who do the cast over there, and they have some very distinct views on how you play Nidalee, and namely, it's a little bit like you used to, of course, with Renekton and Elise, but Nidalee is a topside jungler. She wants to get that 2v1, really, if she can help it, where you just blow one target up. You're a bit squishy in a 2v2 or a 3v2, where you can have someone turn around onto you. So, yes, it's fine, but you have to change your play pattern a little bit. And also, we have seen Flipper pull it out in last week. It didn't look fantastic. I can't quite remember the stats on it, but it was something like 0 and 5 he ended up on the pick in game. And it wasn't the best look ever.
It was against Dusty, which they did go 0-2. They got a bit, so a bit right.
So one game does not make a player's repertoire on a champion, right? But all the same, not the best first look. So I'm kind of holding out judgment if they do go for it.
I mean, kind of on the flip side is the thing I want to look at is if we're talking about playing towards that top side, do we want to see the Nidalee for Linsus or something along those lines and play around Artorias?
I've seen him do incredible things on that pick before. Granted, he was doing their academy team a favor by dropping down to them at the time, but he has been very good on that champion in previous patches.
It would fit the MO of playing towards topside and playing towards Artorias, who seems to be the best player on the Rift from inside of Resolve in that last game. I don't think you do it if you're picking Sion, but if you're going to go back towards Camille, I'm going to go pick something a little bit more fighter-like. I don't know whether Artorias really feels comfortable doing that in the series, but of course he did last week. We played, 3 games of Camille, 1 game of Ornn. Of course, those 2 Camille games were in their loss 0-2 to Singularity, so that's a bit unfortunate for them. But of course, again, a couple of games against a team which kind of outweighed Resolve pound for pound. Don't think you can judge him too harshly on that. He came out with some decent stats from it. Yeah, I think that if, that's definitely an option if they were to switch up like we were saying.
So the kind of thing for me, as we're kind of getting ready to wrap up before we go to a quick break, is who do you think is going to finish the series? Do you think Resolve are going to be able to take it back? I'll go one by one and just give us a short answer as to why. Initialize.
I think, from what I've seen there, I'll give the edge to Barrage Academy. But I will say that comes with the caveat that I need to see more from Flipper off Lilia. If he performs off Lilia to the kind of level he was doing on Lilia, then Barrage Academy could well have this. If it's less impactful, if he's onto a Nunu and ends up going 1 and 7 or whatever he did the last week, if he ends up on the Nidalee, goes 0-5, then we have a problem.
And Namira?
Uh, I really like adaptation. I think that Resolve obviously didn't show everything that they wanted to show us in that game 1, but of course they got through to round 2 last week. I think that they've got a lot to play with. I think that I would like to see, of course, that Lilia ban just get Flipper off of that comfort pick, like Sam was saying. I think that there's a good chance Resolve come back and really slap
absolutely.
back. I think that they have the individual prowess to do so. I think that Barrage got way too many comfort picks. I don't think they'll do that again. So yeah, I think we'll definitely go 1-for-1, and then we'll see what happens in the third game.
Absolutely. And that second game is coming up in just a second. We're going to go to a short break before your casters will pick it back up, and we'll get right on into that final, is that second game. See you in just a tick.
Game 2 here at our first match of the NLC Fall Open Qualifier 2. Barrage Academy taking that first game versus Resolve. Not what many people expected, but I had a great time watching that game. That was a really exciting one. Definitely some back and forth throughout it.
And taking it in convincing fashion, by the way. Flipper showing up again on that Lilia. Like, you have to ban this man's Lilia. He gets really amazing flanks off. And it showed again and again and again. He's getting 3-4-man sleeps. He doesn't care about your team. And then Voxney. What is there to say about this man? Like,
Right?
everyone was like, okay, weak point bot lane. Let's focus bot lane. And they just said, you called us weak? Yeah?
Yeah.
Let us just smack this entire game. And how much damage then Voxney was actually just putting out was absurd on this center.
Yeah, we'll see if he gets his hands on it again as we've jumped back into pick and ban. There goes that Kale first ban once again. Looks like we're probably not gonna be able to see it as this series goes on. We do once again have Barrage versus Resolve, and Resolve would get side selection, being the losers of game 1. It seems like Resolve they love that red side. They can't get enough of it.
They seem to like the counter pick, but I wonder where they're going to throw the counter pick this time. I don't want to see the Lulu again. It didn't show up too much. I see the idea. You tried putting it to sort of just go even into the Lucian, but it wasn't enough. There wasn't enough follow-up damage. So I want to see a different draft from Resolve this game round. And please ban this Lilia.
Nope, we're going to ban the Lucian instead. I mean, Lurks did have a good game, but it's wide open, that Lilia. So they've taken the Talon and the Nunu away. And Kel freaking surprise, Mr. Royale. They haven't locked it in just yet, but I don't see any reason why not to. There it is. Flipper back on the Classic.
This kind of upsets me. Like, Flipper...
At least they got the Graves this time, though. I do like this for Linsas. I prefer this.
I mean, the Graves was open last game, but Flipper has shown up on Lilia too many times already just to give it him again. So I think it's just better not playing against it at all.
Yeah.
Or you take blue side and take it away from him.
Mm.
But let's hope Resolver adapted this time. You got Graves.
Yep.
What are you going to pay out with your Graves? How are you going to navigate this time round? That's already an aggressive pick with the Akali. This is a bit more better.
That is very different to the Lulu, very much so. We'll need to see. I guess it could still technically go top or mid as well, but I imagine we're definitely going to see a different style of early game coming out of Resolve when they have the Akali locked in, and they do have Linces on the Graves. This is all of their wins, Resolve, came from the Graves. Both of their wins versus Veneer had massive Linsas Graves performances, and Den Voxley, he's back on that Senna. Very happy to take that one, I imagine.
But this time round, there is some dive to actually get to him. It's not just going to be a Torius jumping onto the center. They have a bit more dive with the Sakali in their comp. So maybe they can turn it around with this a bit more. And like you mentioned, the Graves has been one of the keys of their success. Can they build advantages of this Graves is going to be a different story. And we're just going to get the Lux Echo. You didn't ban it, so we're actually going to play it this time round.
Yeah, Lurks clearly just has like an internal flowchart here. Like Talon's not Pound's banned, okay, can't do that. Echo's banned, can't do that. Lucian, oh, Echo, well, let's get that one straight into that Akali matchup potentially. Is this a matchup that you prefer, that you like with the Echo into Akali, or are you hoping that maybe Lurks wants to see it go somewhere else?
I've seen this go either way personally. I know people do favor this Echo into the Akali, so it could be good. I don't want to judge it just yet because I've literally seen it go 50-50 too many times. And there's nothing stopping either champion to roam. Both champions love roaming. Echo does have more pressure into roaming because he has the easier wave clear, but it can honestly go either way, and I like this pickup of the Ornn early.
Yeah, very much so. They opted for the Ashe early last time, but that didn't really get much done for Dragdar. So now they're putting more priority onto Artorias. Here comes the Ornn, the classic tank in the top, and they banned the Malphite. It's gone. Akkers, play something else, my dude. You got no Malphite this time.
I think they heard me when I was talking to you, Traden, at the end of this game, because it was like, maybe just get Akkers off comfort, because he does have impact on his TPs. Like, despite him being down on CS, being down on gold, his TPs were just way more proactive, and he made a lot happen with the follow-up engages onto the Lilia. So, Akkers, you're going to have to play something different, and 2 tanks, well, technically 3 tanks are off the table.
Do you want to see him go carry, or do you want to see him find another tank? Does he pull the Maokai out or something like that, or does he go over to maybe the Camille or something of that ilk?
Well, there was a classic Akkers pick, which used to be very common into the Ornn matchup, which was the Aatrox, which was not long ago buffed. So
in the pocket, maybe.
There is potential for that. I'm not ruling it out. The Camille,
an outside shot.
I wouldn't think that Barrage Academy would go for the Camille here, but it's still a very good option. She's very good into the Ornn. You obviously want to scale a little bit more before you even fighting him, but the roam potential from the Camille, able to follow not Akkers, Flipper on the Lilia, wouldn't go amiss.
Yeah, and I do like the bans from Barrage Academy taking away those 2 bot lane power picks. Dragdar was getting good arrows landed in, and with an Ornn to follow up, that's a really nice combo to start. Plus the Jhin, Dragdar put up some great stats on this Jhin. It's becoming more and more high priority now in this bot lane meta, and Dragdar has opted to go onto the Aphelios, which is being paired up with a Thresh from Rickley here. So how do you like this bot lane matchup that's shaked up now?
So I do like the bot lane matchup. I like the aggression, what you can get from Aphelios Thresh here. And Thresh into Nautilus is generally pretty good for Thresh. A lot of people favor this matchup for the Thresh. Obviously, you have a bit more insurance in the late game with the Aphelios here. Obviously, Senna still outscales because she scales infinitely, but you have a bit more late game insurance, and you have more consistent engage with the Ornn on the table too. This top lane matchup, Shen can bully Ornn a fair bit in the early game, so it's going to be who's going to back up the jungler a bit more. But the Shen with the Echo here is really damn good, and I can't emphasize that enough. Echo's going to dive the backline. If you are on top of him, you're bringing a Shen to the backline with you. And what's Aphelios going to do against that?
Yeah, he doesn't have to worry about Malphite all this time, but now he has to worry about Echo, which is just as bad, maybe even worse when there's a Shen on his back as well. So let's see if Dragdar can get a bit more done in these fights, because I think a big part of game 1 in these team fights going awry is Dragdar is constantly under so much threat from Flipper and from Akkers, never able to get that DPS down. But now he's still maybe not going to be able to get that DPS down. He's got Echo and Shen on his back. So we'll need to see if he can get this done, or maybe if Rickley can, create a bit more space for him to operate in.
So I do like the adaptation from Resolve, though. I like that they're showing that, okay, we understood that our comp didn't go right game one. Let's just opt for something completely different. Got the Ornn in early with the Akali and the Graves, which has been most of the success. Meanwhile, you got Barrage Academy who just said, don't fix what ain't broke, and we're just going to play Lilia center again with the Nautilus because we're comfortable in this. This is our strategy. We ain't scared.
Yep, they're opting back into that success from last time. Now there's no arrow for Jeppahal to get hit by. He could still get hit by Thresh Hook, so we'll need to see if Jeppahal's going to continue being the CC eater there going forward into this one, as we have loaded onto the Rift for Game 2 here. Everybody getting in. Nice little good luck, have fun from Artorias there. Good vibes only. Positive mental attitude in this top lane.
Yeah, top lane being positive. Not something you probably always see in solo queue, but
no.
Here we are on 5s, and we're getting an invade. I like this. I like this emphasis on the invade. Even if they don't get a pick here, just getting that vision down early is enough information for you to actually make something happen, but hold on a minute.
Denvox has stepped quite far up. Maybe he doesn't have enough space to get back to safety there if that flash hook comes through. Oh, hasn't seen anybody. Maybe they were just expecting a counter invade, I guess, from the side of Barrage Academy. Maybe some of their research led them to believe that might happen, but they are just going to get that deep ward in and go back to a normal setup. So not as spicy as it could have been, but definitely still interesting to see Resolve pulling out a different start.
That's a shame. I was expecting the full spicy invade. Flashes into Denvox and they shut this man down, but no, just standard trying to counter any invade what they might have looked for, and just gonna look to start blue buff on the Graves as well.
Yeah, and looking back towards this pick for the Shen pick for Akers, we did see that he did struggle a little bit in that early game, but the one thing that we really thought was so prevalent from him was those rotations in the cross-map play, and now he's on Shen. He's definitely set up to do that even more, and he has arguably a better lane matchup. So Akers did pretty well in a pressurized situation in game 1. Now he's got maybe even more room to flourish in this series.
Definitely so, and Shen's very good at doing that, like you mentioned. Very good at impact.
Look at how threads that needle onto Dragdar at level 1. He does have that Severum to heal up if he needs to, but half his health gone at level 1.
And this is Jeppahal. Like, this is how he's played the entire qualifier, especially week 1. He played permanently aggressive. Every time he got a hook champion, he would be looking for these level 1 hooks. He doesn't care. If he finds you, that's just free damage.
Exactly, and Pillar finding some free damage in mid lane as well onto Lurks, using that Shroud to get in and out as need be. Both TPs in the mid lane as well, so potentially still some more, even more across that place, even more bot lane parties could be coming up in this game, as that was what broke open the first game ultimately for Barrage Academy, as some trades come back once again.
So now I wonder, did Lurks take armor or MR early against Akali? Because that's always the mind game when you play against Akali. Does she start Doran's Ring? Does she start Longsword? Does she catch you off guard? Because if they start MR and you took Longsword, you're going to put so much hurt down on someone early, and it's such a good cheese strat, especially for Akali. And also getting a lot of that early damage is very good to just set up a gank.
Yeah, and when you're going up against the Graves jungle, maybe the Echo's thinking, maybe I should take armor, because, it's potentially double value against mid and jungle here, as now they are seeing Lurks take the worst of these early trades. Does have a CS advantage, though, and Linsas finding his way into the top, then Artorias actually under a lot of pressure from Akers. Does get out of dodge, and Linsas can clean up this kill. Akers baited in by Artorias. First blood over to Linsas.
And that's what Shen bully potential was talking about. Shen bullying Artorias, but Artorias had a Graves in his pocket and said, come and get me. And Linsas was just like, hello, first blood, thank you very much.
Yeah, Lurk's now walking into that mid lane to spot Linsas out, and Flipper is here, but the health disparity is massive. Easily picked up by Linsas, gets back into that jungle. Akers could maybe cut him off at the pass. The TP from Artorias is coming through. The Shadow Dash does not land, but can Artorias find a knock-up to maybe get a turnaround? Knocks up Akers, now Linsas on the backside, following up with that damage. Huge burst coming through. The Spirit Refuge blocking some auto attacks, but is it enough to finish them off? Akers does go down to Artorias, and Linsas sliced off by Flipper very low. Walks up the Bellows Breath, steps away. Playing with death there, Flipper in that top side, but it's ultimately kills go both sides. As now Resolve is getting the upper hand in bot lane. Jeppahal forced back and taken down by Dragdar. The move speed coming through Rickley, trying to get out of the way of these minions, forces the flash out in Boxney. Can they get another death sentence? Dodges that route, but isn't going to go for it. That's the bot lane getting a clean 1-0 for Resolve.
So you know what? If I think you're Resolve, you would take that every day of the week. Shen also losing out on his TP is absolutely massive. So by the time he's 6, he might not even have his TP to come back to a different lane. And you could pressure that down even more with a Herald play. And talking of plays, Graves is arriving to put down some pressure in this bot lane.
Yeah, just get that wave crashed in as Flipper is here as well. Dragdart very low, it must be said, and summonerless. Linkus now finds Flipper getting aggressive in this bot lane river, dashes over that wall, doesn't want any part of this, is going to give over that crab as they know that Dragdar is too weak to participate here.
Mid lane, just not really much action happening so far. There's just been a little, like, have this, have that, a little bit of trading backwards and forwards, and both just laners just trying to CS, not really having too much interaction so far. So I want to see what's going to happen when the level 6 power spike hits on both mid laners. Obviously, the Kali just want to work towards a good blade.
As that was a replay of that top lane fight. Already had such an advantage before it even started.
Yeah, definitely a huge advantage, and then just Artorias baiting into the Graves. Graves getting first blood here is absolutely massive, especially. He's the one we want the kills on. He's the one we want to carry. And like you mentioned before, most of their success has been on this Graves pick.
I'm interested as to why Flipper chose to go so ham here. It does have Akers in the pocket, but they know the TP is there. It does seem like another very aggressive move by Lily and ends up putting him in the wrong place.
I think they was banking on that taunt hitting, and as soon as that missed is pretty much where you go, we have to get out. But the collapse from Artorias arrives in time, but Graves didn't get the kill here as well, so it's not even too bad of a trade for Barrage. Like, if Graves got that kill, that would have snowballed in even more, so it's not the worst scenario. But things are about to get worse, because look at what Graves is doing. He's lurking in the top lane for any aggression right now.
Yeah, Artorias does have the wave pushed into Akers' tower, and Flipper's here once again. Both these junglers are mirroring each other very well so far. Level 6 has been achieved by Flipper, though Lincest's not quite there. So Flipper, even though he's not got as much done in these ganks, has used that to get that CS lead and the XP lead. Can maybe turn this into a big fight around this Cloud Drake, which is now spawned.
So let's bring some attention to this Aphelios, because Aphelios right now, BF Sword, 1 kill up. Despite the CS difference, obviously you don't want to trade too much, obviously with Senna being able to heal a lot of the damage back up. As soon as you get the anti-healing though, it becomes a bit more of a different story, but what a pocket pick to bring out in the Aphelios when he's not that strong right now.
Yeah, let's see how it plays out for them as this game continues. We now see both junglers once again on mirrored sides of the map, probably about to walk into this river, but there's a lot more, defensive vision for the side of Barrage Academy there in their own jungles. They know that they're coming into this river with a decent amount of control. Flipper prancing into there, gets that first ward down and does start up the Drake. So Lincest actually just kind of hanging around with that lane pushed up, doesn't have the priority to maybe even bother going for this.
Yeah, I think they know they kind of have to sack this one. The pings are all coming out, like danger warning pings, just saying, let's not take this one. We know we're in the deficit here. Mid has the pressure, bot has the pressure. We just take the L on this one and just farm up.
Yeah, and I mean, is that fine? Is that fine for Resolve? Are they happy taking this L early, or are they going to be the ones getting outscaled if they keep letting this run away?
I mean, it's only the first dragon, so I think you can definitely sacrifice it, especially when Shen has 6. You don't ideally want to fight this, and I think they identified that, so it's really smart play by Resolve.
Sure, as we now see Pillar and Lurks once again getting feisty in this mid lane. Lurks has held a pretty consistent CS lead as Flipper now jumping into this top lane, catching Artorias still pushed up. Dives away with that charge and flashes over the wall, but Flipper flashes too and has a whole lot of move speed. Lincest is in the area. Can they turn this one over? Bellisbeth comes through and the Call of the Forge gets a huge amount of damage. That Senna ultimate, Dawning Shadow, does a lot more as well, and Artorias falls to Akers as Pillar and Lincest now trying to maybe get something back, but there's a lot of high health bars and they can't get the job done, as now once again bot lane are exploding on this fight on the bot side. Those roots come through onto Rickley and mostly just supports trading. That Moonlight Vigil comes through. Jepperhow drops incredibly low, and Dragdar, he snatches it out of nowhere, and Vox, they're forced to retreat now in the 1 versus 2. Once again, top side goes for Barrage, bot side goes for Resolve.
Yeah, this Resolve bot lane are showing up to this game. They're not happy with their performance in game 1. Bringing out the pocket pick of Aphelios actually makes stuff happen, and they're definitely making stuff happen, getting that kill across the board. But it's still a trade nonetheless, but Rift Herald is picked up.
Yeah, Linsas is going to finally get one of their own. Of course, both of them were picked up by Flipper last time, just had so much control. And while Linsas still a little down in CS, he's definitely contributing, I think, a little more actively and matching the pressure that Flipper is having and maybe over achieving on that side, getting a bit more done compared to Flipper. But Akker's turning up to that fight very well. He's actually got a very nice CS lead for himself in top lane too.
Definitely does. And there's not really much he can pressure with it. So we jump into the replay. This is how the bot play actually happened. You can see Fresh walking around. He wants to fight this. He just hit level 6. Nautilus is still level 5. So they knew this is the perfect time to go on this. They try re-engaging on the Fresh, but the Fresh land in the perfect box into Dragdar's ultimate. And that's just the kill, just straight up.
Yeah, I think everyone often overestimates or underestimates, I should say, the damage that Thresh can do with the ultimate, landing all of those abilities, including the box. Does a lot of damage to Jepahal and gets that kill secured as Linsas on the bot side right now. Jepahal had roamed up to the mid lane and getting a little bit of deep vision for the side of Resolve. They maybe can catch Nautilus coming back here, but Echo is in tow and Pillar doesn't have TP. Is a little far behind. They're now deep behind enemy lines here for Resolve. In comes that stun. They've guessed correctly. They found 2 people in the jungle. Dragdar coming through to try to support. Akali is following now, and they are going to break apart. Nothing's going to be secured, but the Rift Herald is going to be dropped for Linsas. They're going to get these plate golds instead. Looked like it could have got a little hairy for Resolve there, but they are going to escape just getting some money.
Yeah, they take the safe option, just popping the Herald, trying to get that gold into Dragdar's pocket. They know he is the main carry as it stands. He's the one with the 2 kills. They want to snowball him harder, but Lurks actually perfectly snuffing out that play in the bot lane, getting that roam, getting that stun, just denying this happening was absolutely massive here.
Oh, we have a fight brewing here. Rickley wants it and Dragdar. The camera's gone back to top lane, but they're about to engage. Surely Flipper is on this top side as well. Now we cut to the bot side as Voxing's been pushed back. Linsas chased them into the jungle. Huge damage coming out of Dragdar. That is 2 kills on the bot side, but 1 counter in the top as well. Man, this game just keeps going the same story.
2 for 1 here, and unfortunately Stan United wasn't be able to be used on the bot side. They knew that play wasn't really going to accumulate much, so they just focused on making a top lane play. They will lose first tower here, surely. Trying to get some damage on top lane plates, but that's all they can really get back.
Yeah, now if you've got this top side snowballing, Flipper once again has a nice gold lead in their pocket, matched by Dragdar. I guess, Real, my question here is, which of these gold leads do you think is going to be more important? Getting that Aphelios snowballing or getting Flipper rolling again?
It's definitely an Aphelios. So here we go to the top lane play. It's just simple taunt into Ornn, and Ornn's sent to sleep. Not really much else you can do. You're pretty much dead to rights here. So it's honestly fine that he's soaking up this pressure, getting ganked on repeat, because sure, you're getting a Shen ahead, but Shen is going to get absolutely melted by Dragdar if they just peel him, and Ornn can do a lot more with less. Like, this champion only needs a full item, and then he gets his Ornn upgrade, and then he's just back in the game because it's just so much value.
Yeah, we can see now Flipper trying to push Linsas back into the jungle as the second dragon is spawning. This is an ocean, so we're going to see another, we could see another Infernal Rift or a Mountain Rift coming out of here. But we're going to see this one started up by Pillar, as now Resolve have been the ones taking first step into the river. Lurks is on the bot side, Shen is on that top side as well, but we do see Voxney and Jepahal from bot lane going up to that top lane. Looks like they're just giving up this one for free here.
So I want to say keep your eyes peeled for that Molten Edge. As soon as that's upgraded, Aphelios is going to be...
Ooh, actually, full committal onto Rickley with that Dawning Shadow and the Depth Charge there coming through. Stand United is used, dives forward to try and get it, but that Swirl Seed from Flipper drops behind the tower. Does get that kill secured. Lurks dives in to see what he can get, but Dragdar's going to push them away. Barrage Academy, it looks like they hadn't got it, but on that backside, Flipper once again is the difference maker, and now they are pushing down this tower. Artorias has shown up again, does have the Call of the Forge God ready if he wants to go for it. Pillar not quite there just yet. Looks like they're going to be happy, just pushing them away.
Yeah, and this is perfect. The big snipe on the back line with Flipper picking it up, but Jepahal with a perfect Zhonya's as well. Denying the Graves getting a trade kill there. Pretty big, getting some nice damage on that mid lane tower is already a good start to be making. You get a mid lane open, you open up the entire map. Still only 1 tower down in this game, and the gold is still neck and neck, really. It's 1k, if anything.
Yeah, we see a lot of that gold kind of nested in that bot lane matchup once again. It's bot lane and top lane that, as we've talked about, these have been the mirrored differences for Resolve and Barrage Academy. But as you mentioned, Artorias, he's going to get that free gold value once he gets level 13. Still level 9 right now, so a fair way to go. But he's committed the ultimate in top side with Linsas in tow to try and get this kill into Dim Boxney. They can't get it done, though. No positioning in place there, as Rickley is here. They're just going to walk away.
But playing a flash nonetheless is still very important. Then Voxney without flash, Akali backline access. Let's go, let's do it. That's all they need to be targeting. If they can get the Akali just to even be annoying, not even kill him in the backline, it's just going to be enough for Dragdar to create an opening himself.
I think that's really what I'm waiting for most out of this series, is for this Akali to kind of start going. Lurks is now once again taking these fights in bot lane, but Pillar has been, he's gone down in CS once again. He's getting shoved around in this game as last time, but he's on an Akali now. This is a pick where he can't just be an ult bot. He's got to have an impact in the fights, and, you know, doesn't have his Gunblade yet, but maybe we'll see more when he gets to the items, but it's been a quiet one still for Pillar.
Yeah, kind of still have to wait for that Gunblade to be able to spike properly here, because he had to go defensive. He went for the Merc Treads here. So he's definitely far behind in terms of power. Meanwhile, Echo has that Protobelt ready, so he's able to bully it around a lot more. And you've seen him arrive quicker to every single roam. It's just, I feel like Pillar's just a little bit behind the curve compared to Lurk so far.
Yeah, we must remember that this is a classic Lurks pick. The Echo and the Talon are very much the bread and butter for this player. Getting this Echo on deck is very, very comfortable for Lurks, and we've seen how strong he is when he is comfortable. We have actually hit a quick pause here, so we have this online competition classic. Wouldn't be it online competition without at least one, but if we take a quick stock of the game, now that we have a little bit of extra time to talk about it, the CS differential is actually in the favor of Barrage Academy in all cases, but the gold lead is 100 in favor of Resolve.
Yeah, and that's mainly due to a lot of the kills being on that bot lane. Lilia does have a bounty, so does Aphelios, so they're both primary targets, but if you look where they're heading right now, the pings were already on the Herald, and Fresh is going to base, so this is going to be a free pickup. More or less, it's going to send the gold even, and that's just going to be a Herald mid, opening up mid tower, and it's going to be looking for the aggression. It's going to be looking for the deep wards, where they can start searching for these rotations in these plays.
Yeah, we have had word from production that it is a bit of lag from Resolve Dragdar right now, so waiting for that one to resolve before we get back into the game.
Obviously, that's the last person you want lagging.
Yeah, the Yo-Yo already carry being lagging right now, especially Dragdar and the Aphelios, where this positioning, this team fight positioning is going to be so important, as Flipper is very close to that Liandry's. That's the point where we really started seeing this player taking names in game 1, and it's getting about that time in game 2.
It is indeed. Like, I want to see how much eggs they can put into the Aphelios basket. Can they actually protect him from the dive of the Echo, the Shen, and the Lilia? Because I talked about Flipper's Lilia before. He finds the perfect flanks again and again. Can they deny him the flanks? If they can, that could be how they turn this game into actually consistently winning fights.
Yeah, so do we need to see them maybe show up to the objectives first and use, Rickley to get that vision down very quickly, or is it the way they're approaching these fights? I mean, they do have quite a nice kind of front to back thing going on with Thresh, Ornn, Graves, and Aphelios, and maybe the answer is Pillar. Maybe he's the guy who can step up to Flipper and get inside that true damage circle and actually push them away before it gets too bad.
Yeah, that could be the case then. It's not too long before Ornn actually reaches his ornaments. He's level 9 now, probably very close to level 10. So really not too far away from that. And like I said, the Molten Edge is definitely going to be a key item to be completed for the Aphelios. As soon as he gets that, that's definitely going to be a big spike. And Graves nearly has his Edge of Night too, which is definitely going to be important because there's a lot of single target damage from Barrage Academy.
Yeah, we do see the lethality Graves coming through. No Black Cleavers to be seen here. None of that nonsense. Boris will lose another day today as lethality Graves doing a lot of work for Linsas. And once again, this is his winningest champion. This is the champion where Linsas gets it done. And so far, I have preferred this to the Kindred. We were a little surprised to see it last time, but this has looked a little better. And we're just waiting to see, for me, if this mid lane matchup can pay off. Because, I mean, we were talking about the fact that it was a little quiet for Pillar. Lurks hasn't done too much himself either. He's got 1 assist, he's got a CS lead, but he is going to be that threat that we were talking about in Champ Select with Akers on the back, potentially making Dragdar's life really rough.
Yeah, both mid laners have been very quiet. I thought for a moment you was about to spark off the LS fanboys with the Senna Black Cleaver, but you didn't, so thank God for that. You'll probably see it in chat, but we skipped that for the moment.
Absolutely. Akers diving forward, doesn't land that Shadow Dash, but still winning the trade off the back of Spirit's Refuge, taking control of that matchup as usual. And as we predicted, that second Herald did easily go over to the side of Barrage Academy, back onto Flipper. So potentially they can get that turret differential back even or potentially in their favor, depending on how much they can get, and maybe look for a better fight around the Infernal Drake, because it is another Infernal Rift Rail.
So I feel like something we could have missed on as well, by the way, is I want to see Richly build a Mikhails, because that could be so useful to saving Dragdar's life in this game, or even saving Linsus, because they're both the key points of the team right now. Akali just finished her Gunblade, so she is finally online, but is that going to be enough? That's going to be the story of the game. Can they protect Dragdar? Is Akali actually going to be a threat?
Yeah, for sure. The Mikhails does sound like a great idea to me. I mean, it looks like we may be seeing potentially a Night's Vow coming through first and maybe the Mikhails after. I do want to see an Artorias Locket the Island Solari as well. That item has been coming back into prevalence recently, and it's just going to be another tool to try and keep Dragdar and Linsus alive when it comes into these fights. Once again, here we see the Rip and Control. It is Resolves initially.
It is indeed. 2 levels advantage though on the jungles.
Ooh, nice little hook from Rickley. Linsus over the wall onto Lurks, chunks him down very low, forces out that ultimate and the Shen ultimate as well. Linsus now diving away, but a dive through from Akers gets a double Shadow Dash. Lurks has fallen, but can they keep the jungler alive? Akers forced to flash away, and that Dawning Shadow will not get the kill. The jungler is so low, and Dragdar, he is nowhere to be seen because the Herald was dropped mid lane. Linsus just trying to get out of there with Rickley as well. Artorias pushed back into the wrong side of the map. This is Barrage Academy to win this fight, but how much time can they waste? Can they waste enough time to get Linsus back into this one? They don't get the CC, and actually, they're getting out alive. They're slipping away through the blue side jungle. Barrage Academy now starting up the Drake. Can they at least secure this one? Linsus running at full pelt through the jungle. Pillar gets caught, hooked up by Yepahau, but an ult from Artorias covering the retreat. A TP through from Akers. We're getting a delayed 5v5 here. Depth charge used onto Pillar, followed up by Lurks onto that Drowsy. Gets the kill onto that Akali. Now it is a 4v5. The Dragon dropping very low. Linsus nowhere near. Barrage Academy easy going to pull this one up. Another hook from Jepahau and Lurks on the backside. Suddenly the Blast Cone Rickley is on the wrong side of town. Dragdar is on his lonesome. Forced to flash away. Flipper. The tower goes down from Jepahau. Another hook lands onto Dragdar, and it's a clean ace for none for Barrage Academy.
Barrage Academy taking the fight so consistently. They knew their win condition and they played to it. They took their time. Barrage Academy looking just more confident on their plays. And this has been the story of game 1.
It is so beautiful to see, man. Flipper's my favorite Lilia in the world right now, dude. I don't care. I don't want your Yankos. I don't want your Peanut. I want Flipper's Lilia in my game because he is making this champion look so damn strong. He's getting more camps taken off right now, forcing the TP out of Artorias. Lurks is here. They might look for a potential dive. I don't know if they're that strong, but honestly, man, this guy on this pick, terrifying.
And this is why I said in Champ Select, you have to ban this away. Here's the replay right now. So the very delayed 5v5 starts with a play on the Echo. Literally perfect scenario. You got the Echo, you got the Shen ult come through, and the Akali arrives to actually get the pickup on the Echo here, which is exactly what you want. You want the Akali picking up kills here. And they don't get to get the Shen, so it's very delayed chase now. You just get the chicken dance song with Ornn running away with the fresh.
Yeah.
They eventually get away. It looks great because you're like, all right, so Dragdar can actually arrive for the fight now. You think, all right, we got Dragdar, we get around to this, but Graves is nowhere to be seen, and they're already on the Dragon. I think there's 2 levels still in the jungle difference, and the perfect pick on the backline. Akali can't get a flank. She doesn't even have ultimate right now, and there's an Echo zoom in. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, that hard CC chain, the Lilting Lullaby, and the depth charge followed up by Lurks damage, like Pillar just absolutely destroyed.
And Flipper just arriving into dodge, just says, I don't care about anyone, flashing in as always. As soon as he has flash, he's flashing your backline. He does not care who you are. He does not care what you have. He's coming for you.
I love that Jepahau flashes to kill the tower here and then hooks Dragdar.
That's just commitment, support commitment there, and then getting both them kills for the clean ace. Just like I said, Barrage just seem more committed to whatever play they make.
The shutdown on Dragdar going to Lurks as well, so the quiet time for Echo explodes into a kill on Pillar and a shutdown on Dragdar. He's actually gone for the Gnasher's Tooth second, so we're going to see more of a split pushing Echo here.
Potentially, and here's another play which we might have just missed out onto Artorias. And he's just in no man's land. There's nothing you can do here. There's no one to arrive to protect you. You're just dead to rights.
Yeah, I mean, it's another fight in mid lane. Rickley gets blown up by Lurks. It seems like Barrage Academy are stepping up over and over into the jungle, taking everything they can find. You know, I'd probably bet money that it was another Jeppahau hook that got that one started off. This guy just cannot miss this game. And Barrage Academy now, suddenly, after what looked like a more even game, they are once again in possession of a 4 to 5k gold lead.
They're the ones making the plays. They're the ones being more confident on every single play made across the map. And it's just looking like Resolve are just lacking the reply. They're lacking the calls to actually know what to do on this sort of scenario. And they're just starting to get choked out at this point. You see the gold leads building up more and more. And they're already rotating towards that top lane. Just sort of trying to pressure where they can.
Yeah, and another item difference from game one, we see that Dimvoxen has gone for the Youmu's now instead of the Black Cleaver that he went for last time. So definitely maybe feeling a bit more comfortable in this game, going for that damage-heavy build. Artorias is the only real heavy tank to deal with, and getting that extra damage through onto Dragler, onto Linsas might be the key. As Dimvoxen is center, once again, kind of popping off low-key, 3-1 and 6.
Yeah, there's two picks what we always talked about in the pre-game and post-game. We talked about Senna, we talked about Lilia, and both of them are shining again and again. It just feels like you could have sacrificed a ban for one of these, in my opinion. What do you think of it, Trojan?
I mean, so the bans that Resolve look with a Talon is the one thing that we've seen taken away from Lurks over and over, and the Lucian, which they didn't like. But I think that, honestly, I mean, we know Flipper is a Nunu player. We know this, but Lilia's just really good, man. Lilia's a really good champion, and Flipper's an amazing Lilia. I think you just have to maybe let the Nunu pocket pick through and play around it and just get this Lilia out of there.
Either that or just play against the Lucian, because it was able to actually deal with Lurk's Lucian to some decent degree, because it was still the Flipper and then Vox Nature.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen
Oh
a lot.
my God, here we
Hang
go.
on a second, we've got a two-man lilting lullaby into that engage. Dawning Shadow once again. Resolve kiting back if they can, but Dragdar is untouched, doing the damage. Artorias is going to be the first one to fall. A lot of low health bars, but Dragdar doesn't get hooked this time, but he's getting chased down by Lurks. You cannot escape this team of Barrage Academy. When they set their sights on you, they will chase and chase until you are all down. It's another ace for none for Barrage Academy off the back of that fight. They're knocking on the mid lane. They've got this inhib at least. I don't know, maybe they could get more.
Yeah, they're walking it down. They're looking towards ending the game, possibly. They're getting that inhibitor. The death timers are long. Look at them, 25 seconds. They can definitely look to pressure this.
Artorias is the first one coming up, but he doesn't even have the Ornn items yet. He's got two on deck. Lurks popping that parallel convergence to give him off a shield. One tower goes down. The minions are here. Another one as well. 3 members are alive for Resolve. Can they get alive to finish this one? Flash forward from Jeppahau, just trying to CC the members of Resolve. It's not enough, Rail. Barrage Academy, they take the 2-0. A dominant series from them to kick off this second qualifier.
It is not enough. Barrage Academy just looking so strong. Every play they made, Flipper, what a performance from him, just in general. Like, Lilia, every time he gets his champion, he performs up there again and again and again, and they just can't deal with him.
Dude is an absolute monster on this pick, man. Like, you beat the Linsas Graves. Now Linsas Graves has a loss on it, and the key to beating it was Flipper's Lilia. That's the new meme here. We'll need to see how many times he gets this champion in this qualifier, because if I'm the other teams, if I'm Dusty waiting for them ahead of them in the bracket, I don't think that's making it through.
This is the performance what Barrage Academy needed to put up as well. With Dusty in the far side, Dusty beat him before, and they beat him quite convincingly. So Barrage Academy knew they had to step up, and making a 2-0 is definitely making a big statement to say, we are ready. We are here to qualify. We're not here to mess around.
Absolutely. They have come to play in this qualifier, and we'll need to see how much more they can do. But to break down this series, we're going to go back to our beautiful analyst desk after a short break. I have been Trajan, cast alongside me has been Rail. It's been a massively exciting cast to kick off this qualifier. Please, everybody, don't go anywhere.
Oh, Resolve. It all looked so good. The draft came back. They were in a great position. The early game looked like exactly what they needed. Just break that down for us, then, Nymera. Absolutely fantastic start for Resolve.
Yeah, I mean, we posed some questions before the game and after the pre-game of the first game too, saying, okay, right, well, let's have a look at the comfort for what Barrage Academy have, and let's see if Resolve can get themselves into a better position into some of the more important areas of the game. And we saw immediately no Lucian. That's an important thing. It means that Lilia and Lucian combo that's separated. You don't have that same very heavily winning mid lane matchup. They had themselves kind of this mid lane melee AP assassin matchup for the two mid laners, and it seemed to be working out okay for them. Of course, that's kind of where the good news ends.
Yeah, it absolutely did. And I mean, if you were watching the game, which I assume you are, if you're watching the post-game and its post-series analyst desk, they do win out 2-0. Barrage absolutely dominating in the latter half of that second game. And Rai, where did it all go wrong?
Well, I think overall, what we got to say is Barrage Academy played better on the day. We struggled, I think, a bit with the Lilia. Flipper played very, very well on it. And I think we just struggled to execute on our win conditions and take advantage of the leads that we got. But yeah, ultimately, that's the game. It can go one of two ways, but I think there's definitely things to be taken from these games.
Nymera, how do you feel was the big? What do you feel was the big turning point in this final match? Because it was all looking, as we said, so good for Resolve, and then it kind of flipped on its head, didn't it?
It did. I think that there are a number of points we can go towards. Maybe the fact that the Akali really didn't get involved in that much in the early game. I think it was 0 kill participation at 12 minutes. This mid lane very much on an island as opposed to the first game, where of course, well, I mean, it's slightly better than that, I guess, if you look into how the Lucian was running over that matchup. I think particularly it came down to the way that both teams approach team fights. I think that having an Aphelios means that Aphelios is always the focal point of a team fight. Can he auto attack? Can he stand and shoot? The answer was plainly no, he couldn't. He got a lot of kills early, and that was great. I mean, we talked about the draft being very good, but of course the early game, as you mentioned too, very much when kind of splitting across gold across the board. You had the Lilia versus the Aphelios. But so this Aphelios had a lot of kills, had the ability to maybe blow up some carries, but was just never given a chance to stand still. I think a lot of that comes from a bit of disconnect between the front line and the back line. We saw a couple of times, particularly one of the big dragon fights. After the huge miracle escape that, of course, the Resolve's jungler had. And then we kind of saw that the Ornn walked a bit too far. Phil's kind of stood a little bit too far back, and it meant that he just couldn't end up being in a position where he could just free fire even for a couple of seconds and try and turn things around. And that meant that even though you had so much gold on this AD carry, it just really didn't become that relevant.
Yeah, absolutely didn't. And we're going to be having a quick replay of that dragon fight, which was just so brutal. As you said, just they put all of those resources into that Echo, trying to take him down. They managed to just barely make it out here. You can see the start. Goes on to Lurks. And I mean, it all looks like a great opportunity. Resolve, take him out here. It's quite an extended fight as we're just going to rush on through this one. But after he goes down, this is the perfect opportunity. And they make that great escape, as you can see on the screen.
Yeah, really well played by by Linces there. And of course, Pillar getting over the wall, didn't have to burn the flash, just used the first part of the ult, which is a targeted ability now. So it looked like Resolve were in a really good position. They blew the Echo Wall, they blew the Shen ult, that's great. Then you realize the death time is actually quite short at this point in the game. There's a teleport left on the Echo, and then the fight starts in earnest again because Yepahao gets a hook onto the Akali, and then really they're just committed to this. Lux just completely throws himself at Pillar, takes down his opposing member in revenge for just what happened there. And then, yeah, the battle lines just cannot form for Resolve, who really want to fight around this Aphelios. And look, he just can't do very much after this initial burst. Look, he's just right in the thick of things.
Absolutely is. And it's just unfortunate to see. I want to point out this flash as well from Yapal. Look at this. Flash autos the tower, goes to the. This is the kind of spicy play you love to see. I mean, I do think we discussed it. It is optimal. Like, you absolutely want to be doing that, but it just looks a little bit wonky. I love to see that sort of thing, and it's really unfortunate as well for Resolve to really be caught like that. And from there, again, that key player who came on throughout all of it, it was absolutely flipper. Game one, game two, absolutely everything on that Lilia both times. How do you feel about that, Namira? Because I feel like it was such a key point in the series.
I think that's a absolute ban away from Flipper. You don't give him Lilia at this point. I think in game one, you could definitely pose the question, is it the Lilia Lucian? Because, of course, I think that the mid lane matchup, of course, went pretty favorably in the Lucian versus the Lilia matchup. But I think now it is a pretty confirmed, yes, you have to take this away if Barrage Academy are on blue side. Yeah, I think that this guy has shown not just the ability to dive and gank, he's shown the ability to team fight very, very effectively. His Zhonya's usages in game one were very, very important too. So I think this guy just has a very good measure of how powerful this champion is at any point in time and has managed to use it to the full extent of the champion.
Yeah, I think Flipper really stepped up in this series. I think there was a lot of questions about how the jungle matchup would go, who would come out on top, and Flipper really, really, really from the start of each game just went out swinging, and yeah, came out on top in this occasion.
Not that I think Linces played badly. Actually, I don't think it ever came down to 1v1 jungle deals. I just think that the team set up very well for what, of course, that Lilia was doing, and Linces was kind of left out, kind of sifting through the debris after the play had been made, just like not quite quick enough to the punch. So yeah, I think there'll be some coordination and some early game plan rethinking from Resolve, I'd imagine, after this.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to go back, watch the replays, and see exactly where it all went wrong. But I think there was definitely some good things to come from this as well. Dragdal's performance in game 2 was really, really good. I think Linsas, especially in game 1, did quite well. But I think overall, and in fact, I think all of the players had moments or periods of both games where they did really, really well. I'm sure there's going to be some notorious highlights coming out of this as well. But yeah, overall, I think we just got to go back, see what went wrong, and just try our best to improve on it for the next games that come. Ultimately, this is a group of players who've worked very, very hard to get here. They've been practicing, they've been scrimming, they've been working on their own individual play. And I think, how far we've come this split definitely shows that, yeah.
Yeah, and you were talking to us before, and you were discussing kind of future plans. What have you really looked at on kind of that line for Resolve? Because obviously, this roster was made to a lot of these players kind of coming in at the last minute.
Yeah. So, a funny story. Back in May, when we kind of managed to get our investment and everything, it was quite late on in the off season. So a lot of the players were already signed. But we managed to get Dragdal in pretty much straight away. Liz has joined as well. And everyone who got in, it was great. But I think what we might have to do is make a couple of changes possibly. We don't know. We're definitely gonna have to see how it goes over the next few months. But we want to make sure that once we do get into UKLC, we're prepared to go out there and win, and hopefully be the first team to promote into the NLC.
Yeah, and I mean, you have shown some fantastic stuff. Even though you went 0-2 today, we saw some great highlights, as you kind of highlighted yourself. Thank you very much for joining us on the Deskerai. Obviously, if people don't know, Resolve's founder, and obviously Nymera for joining me here too.
Thanks
to
the
casters who had honestly brought us a fantastic series there and did a great job on the casting desk. And thank you all very much for watching. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow, week 2, day 2. Initialize has asked me to plug them as well, as I did, well, initially forget that one. But yeah, as I said, don't forget week 2, day 2 coming up tomorrow around the same time. And yeah, should be one.
Follow us on Twitter too.
Series. Follow us on Twitter at Square One League. SQ1 League, sorry. Thank you all again, one final time for watching. Have a good evening.
Trapped inside this spell. Now I feel like your demons drag me close to hell. I can feel